29 in Major League Baseball, but Wrigley Field is open for business to get the post-All-Star portion of the schedule kicked off this evening. Kris Bryant and the Cubs looking to start their second half push in earnest tonight. Matt Carpenter and the Cardinals have other plans. St. Louis looking to avoid 3 straight postseason absences for the first time in 2 decades. And that's a guy with a lot of time on his hands. Yeah, the out-of-town scoreboard operator won't have much to concern himself with tonight, as this is the only event on the schedule. Welcome to Major League Baseball on ESPN, presented by LG. Tonight, it's the Chicago Cubs opening up a 5-game series against the rival St. Louis Cardinals. And as is usually the case, it's tight atop the NL Central. 2.5 games separating the Cubs and Brewers. Milwaukee got into the break in bad shape. The Cardinals 7.5 out, and the Pirates, after a late push to get into the break, find themselves a game under 500 and only 9 out in the division race. With that, we welcome you inside the broadcast booth with Jessica Mendoza and Alex Rodriguez. Matt Vasgersian, Buster Olney with us as well. Let's start by talking about the St. Louis Cardinals. Got into the break in pretty bad shape, losing 10 out of 16. They fired their manager on Saturday, yet the glass half full Cardinal fan would point to the fact that they're only 4 out in the National League wild card race, and they've got a chance to control their own destiny starting tonight.
Well, why? Because their 8 of the next 11 games are against this first place in the division Chicago Cubs team. So they have a chance out of the gate, but they're going to be tested with this new manager in Mike Shildt. We'll talk about him throughout the game, but this is a team with a ton of pressure right now because we're only a couple weeks from the trade deadline. So this is a team that has to figure out, are they a team that can get to the postseason? They'll be tested right away. And this pressure begins right now with this Cubs series.
For the Chicago Cubs, Alex, they got into the break in very much a different sense. They were hot getting into the break. And the good news for Chicago is that ever since Joe Maddon rode into town here in 2015, they've been the best second half team in all of baseball.
Matt, the Cubs have been stellar, and that's been no surprise. But in order for them to get back to the World Series like 2016, it all starts with the great superstars, and that's Anthony Rizzo and Kris Bryant. Kris Bryant has been a little bit undisciplined, needs to take a deep breath, make those pitchers come to the strike zone, get your A-plus swing, Jessica, we talk about, and get the ball up in the air, especially on a night like tonight. The ball is flying out of here to left center.
Already windy and perhaps giving us some conditions that could make for some interesting times. Hey, we've got a lot to get into tonight in addition to just the Cubs and Cardinals. As Jess mentioned, the trading deadline is just 2 weeks away. We'll talk plenty about it. Among the big second half storylines in Major League Baseball, all that and more. Starting lineups and the opening pitch from Wrigley are next. Baseball on ESPN is presented by the LG G7 ThinQ. What's it gonna take? A terrific night to kick off the post-All-Star portion of the Major League schedule. The St. Louis Cardinals under new management. That man, Mike Shildt, pressed with trying to push the Cardinals up over the pack and into the postseason. And Buster Olney has a little bit more on the Redbirds' new skipper.
Yeah, Matt, and boy, what an unusual path he's taken into this role. He actually worked as a clubhouse attendant as a teenager for the AA Charlotte O's, shining the spikes of Cal Ripken every day in 1980. He was hired as a scout by the St. Louis Cardinals in 2004, first managed a Pro Bowl in 2009, later joined the Cardinals coaching staff and became a good friend of Mike Matheny. And after Matheny was fired last Saturday, he reached out to Shildt to wish his friend well. Matt, back to you.
It's going to be fun to watch what Mike Shildt will be able to do with the Cardinals moving forward. And in fact, one of the changes that he has offered, Alex, is a little bit more consistency perhaps with the starting lineup, and this is what he has tonight.
Yeah, more traditional approach for the Cardinals, highlighting Yadier Molina, the 9-time All-Star, 8-time Gold Glove winner, career high at the break with 13 home runs, and a very clutch hitter for the Cards.
Cubs taking the field on a great night for baseball at home for them, and home has been a very comfortable place for Kyle Hendricks this year. An ERA nearly a point lower here at home than it is on the road. Overall at 6-8 with an ERA under 4. First innings have been trouble spots for Kyle. Not only has he allowed 18 runs in the first, one of the higher totals in the game, he's been touched up for a major league high 9 first inning home runs. The changeup specialist on the mound tonight.
Yeah, the Dartmouth grad will not overwhelm you with power, but with finesse and location. And he's got a fastball. He sinks it. He cuts it a little bit up top with the fastball around 88. Super plus changeup and a little throw me over. They call it a dump curveball early in the count to steal some early strikes. Has been struggling with mechanics early this year. Finally found some rhythm on July 9th against the Giants. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as the game goes on.
You talk about that curveball, Alex, and Joe Madden told us before the game he wants to see a little bit more of that from Kyle. Try to get opponent bats off the changeup a bit just by changing the eye level. And Joe, for whatever reason, as we mentioned, has been a second half magician. He visited with us before the game and shared that he had his message for the team before the All-Star break. Cubs finished the first half, quote unquote, in San Diego. Joe addressed the team, reiterated some of his spring training messaging, and here they are, 2.5 games atop the pack and ready for the final push. So all the star power in check, some of it being given a night off for the Cubs tonight. We'll talk about it when we go to the bottom of the first. No Wilson Contreras, no Javi Baez, a couple of their all-stars being given an additional day, as 3-time All-Star Matt Carpenter settles in, and we're ready to get this one underway. First pitch of the second half misses outside to Matt Carpenter, and we are underway at Wrigley tonight. Carpenter, Molina, and DeYoung for St. Louis.
Kyle Hendricks works at a very fast pace. He gets into that rhythm. Throw that 2-seam fastball to both sides of the plate, and Matt, he's got reverse splits, meaning he's got better numbers against lefties than righties because of that 2-seam fastball and the changeup that Alex mentioned.
A ball and a strike to count to Matt Carpenter. There's a good changeup swung on and missed.
If he can get the fastball called where he did in the previous pitch, was a little bit off the plate and low, but then to throw the changeup in that same tunnel off of it is why he gets the swing and miss.
Matt Carpenter should lead off home runs in each of the last 2 games for St. Louis, getting into the break. Behind a ball and 2 strikes.
He only throws 85 to 88, but it plays a lot harder than that, mostly because of the changeup. And his command is elite, especially when his mechanics are right.
2 balls and 2 strikes to count to Matt Carpenter. Cubs play Carpenter in a shift. which is not unusual when you're talking about the rest of the league. But for the Chicago Cubs, it is a bit unusual. Carpenter is one of the few players in the division that the Cubs will shift against, as they do to start the night here this evening.
Carp pulling the ball so much more this season than he has in the past, even though he's had great numbers.
And a swing and a miss. First out recorded via the strikeout for Kyle Hendricks tonight.
And you're going to see him work this location over and over again. He'll start hitters off with the two-seam, come back with the changeup, and his ability to be able to make those two pitches look the same is why you see Carpenter way out on that front foot.
One gone for the 9-time All-Star Yadi Molina.
Matt, you'll be brokenhearted about this too. The two starting pitchers tonight both rank in the top 20 for fastest workers delivering pitches under 22 seconds.
Well, there must be some
It's
mistake.
about time.
There's no way we got this game tonight.
We're owed like 8 of those.
Matt, that does not matter. That means we're going to play a 5-hour game.
Oh,
baby.
Alex.
We're here all night.
Hey, look, the wind is blowing out a little bit here today. We've got hitters that have had some days off. Who knows how it's going to play out as Molina takes a strike and it's 2-1. Little early start time here today locally at just after 6 o'clock Central Time. 2 balls and a strike to count to Yadi Molina. Right back up the middle of the base hit. For Yadi Molina, his 200th career base hit against the Chicago Cubs.
Good pitch here. Fastball low and away there from Molina. Perfect hitting. Kept his head down. Gets that foot down nice and early. And clears those hit very nicely. Right back to where it came from. Clinic.
No active player has more base hits against the Chicago Cubs than Yadi Molina, with that his 200th, and he's aboard here with 1 gone now for Paul DeJong. Well, last time we saw the Cubs and Cardinals, Paul DeJong was on the shelf and is back after the wrist injuries. Hit safely in 7 of 8 since returning. Technically a left hand fracture that cost Paul 45 games already this year. Jammed that time, rolled her to third. And Bryant with an offline throw that Rizzo does a nice job at the receiving end on.
Very nice play here by Chris Bryant. Has the break because does not get out of the batter's box quickly. Really nice recovery there. Good footwork there by Anthony Rizzo on the receiving end.
He made that look easy. I mean, Rizzo comes across the runner to Young, still keeping, look at his back foot, drag the bag to be able to stay on. That's not easy when you got a runner coming at you. You know, so many things are happening to be able to get that out instead of an error.
As a third baseman, when you see DeJong gets jammed, he's about 2 steps slow out of the box. So Chris Bryant used his clock very nicely, made a nice throw over there.
2-out RBI opportunity now for the 2-time All-Star Marcell Ozuna, who takes a strike.
And that's the pitch. Keep an eye on that away two-seam fastball. It'll backdoor these righties. He's going to go to it a lot. Joe Madden told us pregame. That's a pitch when they've seen him struggle is when that doesn't get the bend to come back over the plate for a strike. He did to Ozuna first pitch there.
Ozuna's first half and his first few months as a Cardinal read as almost an exaggerated EKG chart. A lot of peaks and a lot of valleys. He got into the All-Star break in something of a valley. Just 9 for his last 56 in 14 games leading into the break. But he has here driven in the first run of the ball game. An RBI single back up the middle, just out of reach of the middle infield, and it's 1-0 St. Louis.
And Ozuna taking an inside pitch here, inside out. Really nice break with Molina jumping on the pitch with 2 strikes. Zobrist almost makes a really nice play, but really good hitting by Ozuna. We call this alligator arm, staying really tight through the baseball. Base hit, 1-0 Cards.
team best 50th RBI of the year for Marcell Ozuna. Now it's Jed Jerko. Well, Kyle Hendricks' first inning troubles continue here out of the break. We showed you those numbers when we went on the air. The fact that for whatever reason Kyle has had a hard time escaping the first unscathed. First inning runs after the Marcell Ozuna RBI single. You know, the changeup is such an important pitch for him, as we've talked about. And Joe Maddon felt like part of the difference between Hendricks this year and how good he was last season, and in particular 2016, is that he wasn't getting swings on the changeups. They'd become easier takes by opponents' bats. He's thrown 3 good ones already in the first. All 3 have been swung at. One of them yielded the RBI single, unfortunately, for the Cubs. But it's a pitch to watch. He is as effective as his changeup will allow him to be. 2-2.
Kyle Hendricks has been battling mechanics the first half. And Matt, what happens is when a pitcher's doing that, the ball does not come out of your hand as easily. It doesn't explode out. Therefore, you're getting a secondary or tertiary look at it. San Francisco, he figured something out a few starts ago.
Jerko with a base hit to left. It's the 3rd hit of this opening inning for St. Louis.
Talking mechanics here. Here's Hendricks, and you want to be really compact. The same goes for a pitcher as a hitter. Timing, you want everything in great sequence. And Madden told us today, when Kyle Hendricks gets in trouble, is you get that 2-seamer to come back over the middle of the plate, and that's exactly what happened there. Lucky with a single and not a 2-run homer.
So with a run in, 2 out and 2 on now for Kolten Wong. Wong starts play at a disappointing .213. Disappointing by Colton's own standards. First and foremost, he has hit 7 home runs. Already out homering his yearly total from 2017.
Defensively, I mean, he has been fun to watch. He should win a Gold Glove if he keeps the pace up that he's shown defensively, what he's been able to do, and that was a goal of his in the offseason. The fact that he wasn't even considered last year really rubbed him the wrong way. Yeah, he doesn't have the bat that he wants right now, but I'll tell you what, he's definitely had the glove this season.
See, there are so many statistical warts when you analyze the Cardinals this year.
Yeah.
And Mike Matheny's the guy that ends up paying the price. Fired on Saturday, as we discussed. But there wasn't a single Cardinal asked, and Jed Jerko was one that offered this when talking about Matheny's fate, that said we feel like we let him down a little bit, and I think that's the way players feel when a coach or a manager is relieved of duties, especially mid-season, which is something that's exceedingly rare in our game.
As a player, is heartbreaking because you're 1 of 25, and while the manager takes the brunt of it, as a player you're 125th responsible for it. And I know the players felt terrible. You can't fire 25 players. So Mike did a great job for a long time. Is now home, and now they have a new leader.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Kolten Wong, and it's a full count now, 3-2.
And it's especially rare for the Cardinals. The last time they let a manager go in season, how about Joe Torre, 1995?
Worked out okay for Joe.
And for Mr. Steinbrenner.
Yeah. Full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes to Kolten Wong. Runners will have a head start. There they go with 2 away, and Wong sends a rocket into right at Jason Hayward to retire the side. Cubs yield the early run, and after a half inning, it's 1-0 St. Louis. Louis, as we take a look at Joe Maddon's Chicago Cubs starting lineup for this, quote, second half opener tonight.
How about Jason Hayward? Starting the year batting 8th because of the struggles he's had the last couple of years. Now batting 3rd because of the seasons he has been able to have. And you look at fastball, the way he's hit the fastball in particular, he's 3rd best in MLB at crushing fastballs.
These Cubs taking swings against a 26-year-old right-hander and 2-time All-Star Carlos Martinez tonight. 6-5 on the year, an ERA just over 3. Last pitched on Friday against the Reds and was a 9-1 loser against Cincinnati that day.
Martinez features all 3: fastball, slider, cutter. The big change for him is using the cutter more now to righties and lefties. And he learned this pitch from Wainwright, Adam Wainwright.
Adam Wainwright, who along with Michael Wacha on the disabled list, no real timeline for their return. And what has been a great start to the year by St. Louis starting pitching will have to continue with Martinez as the most experienced of the bunch. It's a very young rotation that's led to some great success in St. Louis this year from a pitching standpoint. Anthony Rizzo leading off with a ball that scoots past Dexter Fowler into right. Boy, it's working with Anthony Rizzo as a leadoff hitter. They've won 3 in a row with him doing that, and Joe Maddon figured after the break, why not continue?
Well, you look at just how loose Anthony Rizzo has been since he's been on this tear. This is a fastball, and you know that he crowds the plate, so he turns something that's middle away to really right down the pipe. On a tee for him. Out the get-go, double off the bat. You got Rizzo, Bryant, and Hayward for the Cubs. And even though it's not traditional, you have no time to rest with the big power 3.
Some of the numbers we're talking about: 8 for 17 in 3+ nights as a leadoff hitter. Chris Bryant now picks on the first pitch. A roller out to shortstop for DeYoung. And the first out for Martinez tonight.
Unproductive out for Chris Bryant. You want to do anything in your power to get Rizzo at least to 3rd base for Jason Hayward, who's hitting 3rd.
Well, Jason Hayward, after a rough start to the year, starts play tonight at a more than respectable .285 batting average. He's hit safely in 5 in a row. He's probably one of the few players in baseball that wasn't looking forward to the All-Star break. He is also one of the players on this Cubs team that loves the fastball. Beaten on the ground to the right side. Carpenter to Martinez for out number 2.
And that's that cut fastball, Alex, that you talked about. This is a new pitch for Carlos Martinez this season. You think of all the pitches and honestly the career that Carlos Martinez has had and the success that he's had, he goes and adds this one. And you think just that slight movement in on the hands of Jason Hayward. Matt, you just talked about his ability to hit fastballs so well. So you get just that slight cut movement. He takes about 3 miles an hour off of it to get a big out in Jason Hayward right there.
So a 2-out runner at 3rd now, and that'll bring up the 3-time All-Star Ben Zobrist. Zobrist swings at the first pitch and sends a foul ball into the seats, or over them. You know, I think it's the versus the fastball numbers, Alex, that makes this matchup interesting. The Cubs have some of the best fastball hitters in baseball in their lineup, and Martinez is a guy who's struggled with that pitch of late. Since coming off the DL, his velocity's down and his effectiveness with that pitch is not what it once was. We'll talk about that as we continue, as Zobrist sends a fly ball to center and nothing comes of the leadoff double. It's an ex-Cub and a guy that's gotten a lot of attention lately that leads off the second for St. Louis. Nothing St. Louis. Still a lot of Dexter Fowler partisanship here at Wrigley Field as the former Cub leads things off for St. Louis in the second. Fowler, Pham, and Martinez. And for Dexter Fowler, a World Series hero for the Cubs, it has not been the best of starts to 2018. Enters play with a 176 batting average, a career low for him in the first half, and also the second lowest among players with at least 270 plate appearances. A ball and no strikes, the count to Dexter Fowler. 1-0 Cardinals. St. Louis scoring the run on the Marcell Ozuna RBI single in the first. I mean, things have to turn around for Dexter Fowler, do they not?
I mean, he's obviously way better than the numbers that he's showing, but I feel like of all players, they're going to benefit from the managerial change. It's going to be Dexter Fowler. And that's just from an observer. That's not him saying anything, but you read the writing on the wall. You felt like he never quite meshed here. And when you think about just a change of communication, change of mindset, whatever it might be, Dexter Fowler is someone that I feel like in the second half will improve alone just on having that shift.
You can make an argument that neither parties have recovered fully to the divorce. The Cubs nor Fowler. I mean, Fowler was such an integral part, such a big cog of that team in 2016. He was a hallmark in center field. He gave you traditional great at-bats. Joe Maddon calls them mature at-bats. And you come to a different environment, and it's different. And it's hard to put your finger on it, but you come in, you feel like you're in a fraternity with the Chicago Cubs. You have a bunch of brotherhoods. Now you go across town, and you have to get used to 24 other guys, management, different manager, different styles. And if you think about the contract with Matheny and Joe Maddon, that's like saying Alaska and Cuba. It's a big gap.
Okay, I know where you're headed there. Well, you know, if Fowler's able to turn it around, it's great for all parties. If not, he is at risk of finishing with one of the lowest batting average in recorded history. Nice play on the right side of the infield for the first out. And I think, you know, Dexter Fowler is as fond of the Cubs culture as it was of him. A little embrace from his former World Series skipper pregame today.
Matt, I wouldn't know this, but there's more for you and Jessica. When you go back to Stanford or USC, there is a comfort zone. You go back and you see your teachers, your former coaches. That's what Dexter Fowler felt today. He's back home. He's on his back campus. And it's tough when you have to go back and wear red and not blue. And I think there's still some, you know, residuals there that he's trying to get over. Well, it's a new half.
There's Tommy Pham now with one gone. And Tommy Pham looking to pick up the second half the way he started the season, which after about 6 weeks looked like it was going to have Tommy Pham squarely in the MVP conversation. He has since cooled starting in the first week of May. And in fact, looked like he was going to get into the All-Star break in a lengthy 0 for before 2 hits on Sunday snapped him out of an 0 for 20. A ball and a strike to count from Kyle Hendricks, and it's 1-2 now.
Matt, I talked to him pregame about what he's been feeling, and you know, there's been so much talk about his eyesight and how that's always been a struggle for him. That's not why he's had the numbers that he's had. It's actually been something with his hands and the mechanics that he went back in this break and watched film to be able to pinpoint. And he's like, I've never really had to worry. It's always been about my eyes, maybe something small in my lower half. There was a huge difference in how he gets into his slot position with those hands and where the barrel goes. That's slowing down his back. And one of the things he was showing, so he's in BP and he's like, it's so frustrating because I can't even feel it. He's like, when I'm going well, my back gets back into this position. For some reason, I have this hitch where my barrel's getting back here, which then slows everything down and I'm not getting the fastball. So it's a difference of here to being flattened out.
Sends that one a long way to left and way out of here.
And that's what's so cool about when you think about having a break, whether it's mentally, physically, but going back into the film room. And for him, he's like, it was such a noticeable difference of where the positioning of his hands were getting into. And now coming out the gate, and it's funny because he's like, I'm going to hit 3 home runs tonight. That was the first thing he said. But look at the position, his barrel, instead of going flat, it gets right into that slot because he said he was so late on fastballs. He wasn't able to get to the pitches he knows he can crush. Right here, he gets a pitch in on the hands, but because of his barrel positioning and his hands, he's able to knock this one out of the park.
Number 14 for Pham, and now it's Carlos Martinez in a 2-0 Cardinal lead. Oh, I mean to tell you, that ball was crushed.
Yeah, it was so funny because he literally looked at me and was like, I'm hitting 3 home runs tonight. He's like, I've had a few where I've hit 2. He's like, I'm going 3 tonight.
Was there any little sense of smile in his eyes or not? He was stone cold serious, wasn't he?
I was messing with him, like joking. And literally he's like, no, like it's a difference of what I can find in my hands. I know the power's there. And of course he's half joking, is he going to hit 3? But there was such a confidence of this is going to be a different second half for Tommy Pham. Jeez.
Yeah.
Had it in the street.
That one ain't coming back. So now Matt Carpenter with 2 away in the run in. Carpenter struck out to open the ball game.
Jessica, your phone is going to start ringing now for being a hitting coach.
No, this is him being a hitting coach because he was able to go to the film room. And Alex, I'm sure you've done this where you've watched and you can have all kinds of people in your ear. Sometimes it's what you see and feel better than anyone else.
See the note on Kyle Hendricks, a career high 18 home runs allowed already this year, and that one hits Matt Carpenter.
And Jess, you're right. I mean, sometimes the break is the best thing that can happen for you. You get a chance to take a deep breath, settle your thoughts, watch video, get into your, everyone has a hitting coach outside of the game, so you get to work. There was some All-Star breaks. I went down and actually worked down in Miami, in the cage, kind of groove my swing, find my slot. Both pitchers and hitters fight this all the time. Well, Pham is off to a great start.
So after the hit batsman, now it's back to Yadi Molina, who singled and scored the first run of the game last inning. So if we're keeping track of the changeups from Kyle Hendricks tonight, and Joe Maddon again talked about that being the important pitch for him this evening. The last 10 he's thrown, 7 have been taken. The 3 swings on changeups have resulted in a foul ball, a homer, and a strikeout. But it's the takes on the changeup that have Joe Maddon concerned.
Matt, the reason why that happens is I disagree a bit with Matt. The key for Hendricks is his fastball as a hitter. Once he's able to establish that pitch outside, low and away, low and in, then the changeup plays. And he has 2 types of changeup. One he cuts and one he fades, but everything starts with the fastball. And from that slot behind the fastball, you get to throw the changeup. It's not the other way around.
But that's a pitch, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're supposed to, he wants to get a swing on that pitch. That's his quick out, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. 2 balls and a strike to count to Molina. And a 2-2 count now to Yadi.
And it's a chess match. That's why sequencing is so important. Fastballs to the changeup. And I like the overhand curveball to establish strike 1.
Uses the changeup to get to 2-2, and now the 2-2 pitch to Molina is yanked into the left field corner. More damage here. Carpenter's being now held, runs through the stop sign. The throw comes to the plate instead, where Rizzo cuts it off. Boy, they had a chance to get Carpenter, who ran through the stop sign of Jose Oquendo, and the Cubs were unable to capitalize on the vacant bag.
And you'll see a fastball in here to Molina. Again, too fat of a pitch up in the zone. Molina obviously looking in after the base hit the other way on his first at bat, and drives his hands in very nicely close to the body, and that ball explodes. Nice play here in Schwarber, getting this ball in quickly. I've been there way too many times.
If that ball had gone straight to Bryant at third, to your point, Matt, they had him.
Yeah, and there's no mistake there. Everyone played that. Actually, Carpenter made the mistake and got away with it. But when you're Russell as a shortstop, you got to get that ball. You know it's going to be bang, bang at the plate. Catch it and throw it. So no harm, no foul.
The breaking ball has Paul DeYoung swing and miss. He's got runners at second and third now with a run in and 2 away. Two runs on 5 hits in just an inning and 2/3 against Kyle Hendricks tonight so far. Into right. Hayward on it to make a routine play of it and end the inning. Not before Tommy Pham can get his tonight. First at bat out of the break. His homer makes it 2-0 St. Louis. This weekend, 4 more against the Cardinals, followed by a 4-game series with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Go to Cubs.com now to see Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez at home at Wrigley Field. And with a report on the conditions here at Wrigley Field, our eye in the sky reporter Buster Olney has traveled to parts unknown tonight. Ian Happ with a shot that's gobbled up at third by Jed Jerko, and the action is fast before we can even find out where Waldo is. Where are you, Buster?
Guys, I'm on a rooftop beyond right field, and this particular rooftop tonight is sold out. 225 people. This is absolutely packed. Now, you might ask yourself, what happens on these rooftops on the days when the Cubs aren't here, like during the All-Star break? And the answer is absolutely nothing. They're only licensed to have fans up here on the days that the Cubs are playing games or they have concerts. When I talked to Stacy Lucas, who's part of the Wrigley Rooftops management, she told me they get calls all the time. Hey, can we have a wedding up there? Can we have an NFL watch party up there? Answer, no, which is why nights like tonight are extra special.
Yeah,
Matt?
and I think, Buster, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are some city ordinances preventing all those histrionics from happening up there when the Cubs aren't playing. Is that right?
That's exactly right. They can only do it when the Cubs are playing home games or when they have the concerts.
Yeah, this is illegal to be up there without a baseball game being played. Buster, thanks. That's a lot of fun up there. If you want to stay up there, we won't take any offense.
Have a hot dog.
You know, guys, I had a chance to say hello to Tom Ricketts before the game today. And to think about what they've done here, I mean, they bought this franchise for $845 million, poured another $850 million around Wrigley Plaza. I had a chance to kind of bike all around this place. It is absolutely magnificent. today, the franchise worth north of $3 billion, according to Forbes.
Wow.
Those rankings just came out. That information hot off the presses too.
Hot of Forbes.
Man. Oh, it's a different experience here than it was even a few short years ago with the renovations and what's happened here in Wrigleyville.
Did you say bike?
I rode my bike. I sure did. Yes.
A chopper to the one-man left side of the infield, and there are two away.
So of all
we're trying to beat the shift.
the cameras that we have, we didn't get a camera
Oh,
on Alex Rodriguez riding a bike around Wrigleyville. This is cool.
It is an awesome experience, and the fans are great. And even though it was a game that actually sat here for 3 innings, watching nothing on the field, that's what I do with my day off.
2 gone, bases empty here for Addison Russell now. Russell hit safely in 7 of 9 getting into the All-Star break, and All-Star himself 2 years ago. A ball and a strike now. Well, with the trade deadline coming up, and we'll be talking about the trains passing in the night throughout the telecast tonight. Kind of reminded of how certain Cubs arrived here, and Addison Russell, one of those that came via trade at the deadline a few years ago, back in 2014, as a matter of fact, when Oakland was making a postseason push. A trade that the Cubs are still enjoying to this day. On the corner for a strike, and it's 1-2. Rizzo doubled to lead off the first for Chicago. 5 in a row retired by Martinez since then.
He's like going to that cut fastball. 5 of the 8 pitches in the first inning were off the cutter. All 3 outs on that pitch alone.
Still 2-2 to Russell.
And he's brought up the velocity. He's throwing 97, and this is one of the conversations, Matt, you brought it up earlier, is that his velocity coming off the DL had been down anywhere between 93 to 95, but tonight we've seen 96, 97.
Russell into center field. Pham there to retire the side. 6 in a row retired by Martinez, and through 2, it's still 2-0 St. Louis. Major League Baseball on ESPN is presented by the LG G7 Thin Q, is brought to you by Ford. Going further so you can. Reminder, weekdays on ESPN2 at 4 Eastern, Intentional Talk, a fun 1-hour breakdown of baseball's hottest topics with Chris Rose and Kevin Millar. You can also watch it live on the ESPN app if you're at work. Back with Jessica Mendoza, Buster Olney, Alex Rodriguez, Matt Vasgersian here at Wrigley, getting your post-All-Star schedule underway with a 2-0 Cardinals lead so far. Kyle Hendricks back to work. He gave up the RBI single to this man Marcell Ozuna in the first, and a solo shot to Tommy Pham in the second. Ozuna, Jerko, and Wong here in the third.
Watch Ozuna's front foot. In his last at bat, he got a base hit on a fastball inside, and that front foot told you everything. This last fastball he just got in, you'll see him stay open. So he opens up. Sometimes he'll get closed with that front foot, and sometimes he'll stay open with that front foot, depending on what side of the plate. And against Kyle Hendricks, he's a guy that lives off the edges. So when he's going well, either he's going to backdoor you with the two-seamer away or come in on the hands. So watch Ozuna's first at bat. Watch what he does. And this is something that you can tell, and that Hendricks probably could tell after the hit. But watch his front foot. Watch him open up completely. There's no way you touch anything except for a fastball inside. That's him telling you, this is where I'm looking. It was a success because he got a hit.
Still 2 balls and 2 strikes. Two-time All-Star coming off a career year last season, his final year with the Marlins. The expectations on Marcell Ozuna, Alex, were so high to come here and replicate that same kind of season in his first as a Cardinal. 10 home runs, 49 RBIs, good, if not unspectacular numbers. If you were looking to make excuses for Marcell Ozuna or explain why he's not had the kind of luck so far, you would use that word, luck, because he's hitting the ball hard, right? All the peripheral numbers are in check. The exit velocity, the hard hit percentages, they're all there. The fact is he's hitting under 270. Here's a number with regards to the hard hit stuff that I find interesting with him. He's recorded 93 exit velocities of 100 miles an hour or more, and that's a top 10 figure in baseball. But 41 of those 93 hits have been outs. So it gets you back to the discussion. Who cares how hard you hit it if you're hitting it right at somebody?
And how well teams are defending him and understanding. I feel like that's where analytics, we're seeing it more and more. Chris Bryant has been a victim of that, just pulling the ball more, being shifted on a lot more. And when you think about Marcell Ozuna, I mean, he's leading the team in singles. I mean, that's great, but that's not why they went to get him. He's only had 3 extra base hits in his last 25 games. John Mozeliak went and got Marcell Ozuna because they wanted power. That's why he's hitting where he is in the lineup. It's good that he has the singles and he's hitting it hard, but until he gets the home runs, doubles, triples, basically anything but just the singles, that's what they expect from him.
And that'll come. I mean, he's got incredible ability. He is a prime-time player. Barry Bonds had him as a hitting coach for an entire year with the Marlins, and he said he is as prepared, as hungry. Work ethic is off the charts. Now, for Bonds to tell you that work ethics are off the charts, that's a compliment. He had nothing but great things to say. The other thing is, look, when you're down in Miami, it's a melting pot down there. It's a great place to live, great culture. He told me the first time we saw him this year, I love Miami. It was so comfortable for me. I would come home and my mom would do, arroz con habichuela, and that's what Dominicans eat every day, and it's a wonderful thing. You now check into St. Louis, another great baseball town, but it's just a little bit of a change, and that'll take a little time.
It's fried raviolis and Bud Light is what it is. What was that delicious sounding thing that you mentioned?
Arroz con habichuela.
Which is, for those of us whose Scotch-Irish tongues get tied up into knots just thinking about that.
From you guys that grew up in Cali, in northern Cali, it's rice and beans, just rice and beans. Oh. However, you mentioned the beer. The beer sounds so much better than a little rice and beans.
I don't know. It sounded rice and beans sounded better the way you said it, I think.
Now, if you want to go to Dominican, the best beer is Presidente.
Okay.
Yeah, nice and cold. Anyways, I'm getting thirsty and hungry.
I know.
Two gone for Colton Wall with the bases empty.
We should do like an eat-off, the fried ravioli versus the rice and beans.
You know what? I had enough of that on 4th of July watching Joey Chestnut.
You know, it's been a long time tradition that goes back to the 60s that when you have a bunch of Latino players on one side, everyone always usually brings their mom to the United States. And the reason why, she cooks for everybody. So traditionally, it's your responsibility. A great play by Zobrist. To be continued, Matt.
Hold that thought. We'll talk about that as we get into further menu items from Wrigley next. Baseball on ESPN presented by LG. This week on Sunday Night Baseball, the Subway Series finale between the Mets and Yankees in the Bronx. Jacob deGrom and Masahiro Tanaka on the mound for a good one. Our coverage begins at 7 Eastern on ESPN with Baseball Tonight's Sunday Night Countdown, also streaming live on the ESPN app. This Sunday night, Mets and Yankees. And there is Yankee representation all around the league, given how hot they've been all year. Looking forward to that one, and we're in the middle of a good one here tonight to get the second half underway. 2-0 St. Louis as Carlos Martinez goes back to work on the mound. He gets Victor Caratini, Kyle Hendricks, and Anthony Rizzo in the home half of the third. Jacob deGrom on the mound on Sunday night. And if you read Jesse Rogers on ESPN.com, that name has been floated to other destinations, including the Chicago Cubs. And wouldn't that be an interesting thing to chew on?
Didn't Alex say this week that whoever gets Jacob deGrom will win the World Series? Isn't there something like that floating around? Were they wrong?
I did say that. I think it would make him the favorites.
The favorites.
You know, you can call him a big time 1 starter or a super 2. And if you think about how he can take the balance wherever he goes, I mean, put him behind Clayton Kershaw, put him behind Severino, put
John
him
Lester.
John Lester. I mean, no matter what the equation is, the 1-2 punch. And quite honestly, what the Dodgers lacked last year after Clayton Kershaw was Yu Darvish. And now he's here.
Full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes to Victor Caratini. Well, the Cubs have said that regardless of Darvish's status, their message, their goals for the trade deadline will remain the same. They have not been entirely transparent with what those goals are. But as Caratini draws ball 4, there are some possible names that are out there being kicked around as trade talks heat up. Matt Harvey's been resurgent since going to Cincinnati. Cole Hamels is in a walk year for a Rangers team that likely isn't going anywhere this season. Jay Happ, Nate Eovaldi, who's been great this year for the Rays. Buster, give us some perspective on these and any other names in the starting pitching market.
Yeah, right now, and generally speaking, it's considered to be a fairly lukewarm starting pitching market. But Nathan Eovaldi is probably at the top of the list right now. He's been throwing the ball great up until his last start, and that was a little bit ugly. And this is the one time a year when small sample size can make a huge difference, which is why I think we should also keep an eye on Chris Archer, because the Rays are in a position where they've got Snell, who's been tremendous for them. And if you see Chris Archer have a great outing, maybe they make him available. Maybe a contender overpays to get him.
Hendricks gets the bunt down, gets Caratini to second with one away.
And Alex, I agree with you about DeGrom if some team pried him away, but I had another team say the Mets don't have the guts to trade him. I mean, look, there would be a lot of reaction in New York. DeGrom's agent recently came out and basically was lobbying for an extension or a trade. I think it's much more likely the Mets keep him and wind up working out some kind of a deal.
How about if you get offered a tremendous package that can set you up for now in the next 5 years, Buster?
I totally agree with you. In a soft starting pitching market like we're talking about, are you kidding? DeGrom, you could ask for somebody's city.
Yeah, and I'm going to play devil's advocate, guys, because at the end of the day, you're selling 3 chances to win a championship. You have them under control for 2.5 years, which means you have this World Series and 2 more. If you wait to the offseason, a third of your value is gone. So if you're the Mets, you can make an argument that there's no better time. If you're going to make a move, be bold and do it now.
You know, the counter to that is Anthony Rizzo takes a strike is that I think there are those with the Mets who feel like they're always a couple of tweaks away from being right back in a race. Maybe not this year, but you know, that other perspective would say, why would we subtract when we could add and keep our value with DeGrom? I guess it all depends on how close you think the Mets are.
And Matt, I think that the Mets really owe it to their franchise to at least go through the process to find out what they could get for him. In other words, hey, you're trying to focus on players who are going to make you better. Call the Yankees and say, if we put them out there, what would you give us? Call the Atlanta Braves. Call teams like the Milwaukee Brewers. You could get a boatload. And we've seen teams like the Cubs, like the Houston Astros, reset and come back. Remember, Jacob DeGrom is not 25. He's 30 years old, guys.
Specific to this matchup, Buster, the Cardinals pitching, starting pitching has been great, but no timetable for return on Wainwright or Waka. Rizzo into the opposite field for Ozuna. And from the Cubs' perspective, there's a lot of payroll wrapped up with the existing group. Would either of these teams be in that market?
For Jacob DeGrom, I'm sure they would at least want to have the conversation. I think the Cardinals right now, because of all these important games against the Cubs, are kind of in a holding pattern where they know that within 2 weeks this team will define itself before they decide what to do. And on the Cubs side, look, if DeGrom was out there, they would have that conversation. I think it's more likely they had bullpen help, someone like Zach Britton. We just saw Brandon Morrow, their closer, go on the disabled list today.
Yeah, Morrow put on the disabled list with biceps discomfort, and that move announced today. Here's Chris Bryant now with a runner at second. He takes a strike.
You can't underestimate the thirst and hunger of a franchise. Take 2016, this time of the year. Theo Epstein made a very bold move in sending Gleyber Torres, one of the best young players in the game, for Chapman. Well, if you ask him to do that again, the answer is yes. I'll answer it for Theo. It was an incredible move for both sides, and that's win-win. I think the Mets have to decide, we don't have to necessarily tear the house down. You can actually do a blend. I mean, there's a chance that you can do both, right? And we've seen, look, it took Brian Cashman 4.5 minutes to rebuild after all us old folks got out of the way. I think the Mets can do a hybrid of that. And if you can get 2 players that are major league ready and you can get 2 prospects, why not?
1-1 to Bryant. Bounced out to the left side of the infield. Picked up by Jerko, but he muffs it. The Cardinals' major league leading 78th error of the year.
Jerko here gets a little careless. You see that runner run right in front of you. Very distracting for the third baseman. And all it takes is for you to get your eyes a little bit off the ball, and you see that a bobble, first and third. 2 outs with the hottest hitter for the Cubs coming up in Hayward. Hey Buster, can we role play here?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, so if you're Jeff Wilpon and you're running the Mets over there, what is it going to take from the Yankees to get DeGrom away from you?
Well, you'd start with Gleyber Torres, and as Brian Cashman, the Yankees general manager, said, he wants to survive in New York because he lives there and he knows he's not going to trade him. But then if I'm the Mets, I'd say, does that mean we can choose from the rest of your prospects? And if the answer is yes, maybe you have a conversation.
The strike to Jason Hayward, and it's 1-1.
Well, we are having the conversation.
Oh, that's right. We're role playing. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay. I got the rules of engagement. Buster, I want to engage with a trade here for you. So, and again, folks at home, this is all fiction. We're just having fun. What is it going to take from the Yankees to get DeGrom?
The Mets will ask for Gleyber Torres first and foremost.
Okay. How about if he wasn't available?
Then I think it becomes an open question if the Mets can find a good plan B deal. And look, the Yankees are considered to have a great farm system. As Billy Beane, the longtime GM of the Oakland Athletics, said, when you make a trade for someone as great as Jacob DeGrom, you better understand it's going to hurt. And that's what the Mets message would be to the Yankees. Okay, you're taking Gleyber Torres off the table. Well, we're taking 3 other guys. Everybody else is on the table. Maybe Andujar, Clint Frazier, maybe Justice Sheffield, and one of the pitchers in that thing. Jacob DeGrom would be far and away the best available pitcher if the Mets put him out there, and I think they should at least have the conversation to see what's possible. Alex?
I think it's foolish to say we're closed for business. I mean, you open it up, take as many bids as you can, and take your chances. What's interesting about DeGrom, he's a special human being. He's got great character, and he's got a coding of David Cone. And what I mean by that, he's New York proven, he's World Series proven, and he's pitched great in October. So we call about 5 tools in New York. He has that 6th tool, which he has the character and the DNA that can handle the Big Apple.
2 balls and 2 strikes. It remains to Jason Hayward here with runners at the corners, and Carlos Martinez trying to get out of a bit of a self-inflicted wound, an error and a walk leading to a couple of base runners with 2 out.
Thanks, Buster. Now we can go read nonfiction again.
Yeah, I think I just fell in the trap of being both Cashman and Jeff Wilpon.
No, it was good. And there'll be more role play with Buster only available on ESPN After Dark. Streaming live on the ESPN app. Still 2-2 to Jason Hayward. Well, this is what's fun about this time of year. I mean, you know, you go through an exercise like that, it's not out of the question that those conversations are being had someplace.
Well, Jess, you can make an argument that the MVP in 2016 was Theo Epstein by bringing Chapman. Last year, Jeff Luhnow goes out in the 11th hour and gets Justin Verlander. The question is, who is it going to be this year? Theo, Dombrowski, Cashman?
A foul ball just out of reach of Carpenter, mercifully fouled. If you're a Cardinals fan, that is.
Alex, we may have just seen the biggest difference-making deal, right? Andrew Friedman, head of baseball ops for the Dodgers, typically does not like to give up high-end prospects in the trade market, but he stepped out on this one. He gave up a terrific young outfielder, Yusniel Diaz, who's considered to be one of the best outfield prospects in the Dodgers system. They added 4 other prospects, and maybe Manny Machado is that difference-making player, moved to put the Dodgers over the top, win their first World Series in 30 years.
Terrific move for the Dodgers, and Manny is a triple threat. He's a great offensive guy that can hit for power, contact, hits great pitching, platinum defender, and he has the makeup.
Alex, he might
fouled wide at first.
Sorry, Matt, I was going to say, Alex, he might, by the end of this year, he may have more leverage than any player in the free agent market other than you. Because you think about it, he's had a great launch season. He's going to L.A. They're trying to win the World Series. He has some October heroics on top of what he's done this year. Become a free agent at age 26. He's going to set a record.
You know, Buster, he grew up in Miami, and he's been playing high leverage games since he was 10 years old at the Boys and Girls Club. Him and his mother, at the age of 15, came to my house asking for advice, and then he went to La Prague High School. He was a 3rd pick. I mean, he has been a star for over a decade.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Hayward. Battling after a series of foul balls. El Machado was thought to be headed to the National League Central at a point when it looked like the Brewers were moving in front of the pack for his services. And there was dialogue with the Diamondbacks among other teams, and the Dodgers land the big prize on All-Star Night Tuesday. Another foul ball wide of the first base bag.
Just a ton of off speed down below the strike zone, and it's been the same story. Jason Hayward fouling off consecutive off speed pitches down that right field line.
You know, Jesse, you look at Jerko's error there. It's cost Martinez. This is his 9th pitch. He only threw 8 pitches in the first inning. That could be the difference between getting into the 7th or 8th or the 5th and the 6th. Something to watch.
He's thrown more pitches this inning than in the first 2 combined. The next 2-2 pitch, and Hayward gets to him. An RBI single into the opposite field. Jason Hayward's resurrection tour continues.
And you see a fastball away right here after a bunch of cutters in. Hayward staying hot with beautiful piece of hitting. We call that very hitterish 2-strike hitting. And as it always happens, at least it appears, after the error comes the base hit, if not the home run.
It started out with a walk to Caratini. Hendricks sacrificed him over. Rizzo lined out. Then the error that Alex talked about. And the RBI single by Jason Hayward. Now a chance for Ben Zobrist, who'd love to snap out of a 3 for 20 with runners aboard and 2 gone here. Strike to Zobrist.
This is unconventional for St. Louis Cardinals baseball. You think about the Whitey Herzog, the Pendleton, and you think about Tommy Herr and Ozzie Smith playing great defense over the years. Some of the La Russa. That was the Cardinals' 78th error of the year. #1 in the National League.
Oh, and 2 the count to Zobrist.
And in this error here, you'll see him maybe just look up just a little bit, and the runner is right in your vision, peripheral vision. You know, Jerko was a basketball player, an all-state player in high school, and those are the things that sometimes we don't give credit for. Martinez was cruising, and now he's not.
Oh, and 2 the count to Ben Zobrist. A long set by Martinez.
I was just going to say how much Martinez has slowed down. I mean, he was catching and throwing through the first 2 innings, and ever since that error, a lot of deep breaths, a lot of holds. He's taken his time.
Well, errors and walks, right? Martinez has had a hard time with control this year. His walks per 9, almost 5, a career worst for him. And those are among those statistical warts that we talked about with the Cardinals that in part led to Mike Matheny's demise and have prevented the Cardinals from garnering any kind of momentum this year so far. Ian Happ waits next. Should Zobrist keep the 3rd inning alive? A swing and a miss to get him out of trouble. Cubs are on the board, however. A run on the Jason Hayward RBI single. We played 3 complete, a 2-1 game. race in the NL Central here getting out of the break. Even the Pirates, winners of 6 in a row, have made things interesting as all mascots try to chase the Cubs in the NL Central. Hey, the MLB At Bat mobile app brings you every baseball moment to your favorite device. Catch it all season with the free MLB.tv Game of the Day, live radio broadcasts, in-game highlights, stats, news, and more. Download MLB At Bat today, your #1 app for live baseball. Bottom third of the Cardinals order here in the top of the fourth. Dexter Fowler, Tommy Pham, and Carlos Martinez. A 2-1 game. We talked about the rarity of a Cubs shift, and they've done it now so far for Matt Carpenter in 2 plate appearances and for Dexter Fowler. And Dexter's had to face this more and more over the last few years when he bats from the left side. 40% of his left-handed plate appearances have come facing the shift. And that's to your point earlier, Jess, that speaks to his 176 batting average perhaps as loudly as anything else.
And that's where, when you look at numbers, you go to how hard are people still, or batters still hitting the ball, but it's also the analytics that show where you can play them now. So even though they might be hitting the ball the same as they were, as we brought up with Ozuna last year, Dexter Fowler, I mean, the way that they were able to place and know him, and granted, he hasn't been squaring up the ball like we know that he can, but it's also been a credit to how the defense has been able to play him, especially from the left side.
Ty Hendricks coming off his first 1-2-3 inning in the third, and he strikes out Dexter Fowler.
You see that location for Kyle Hendricks and what he does such a good job of, especially with his fastball and his changeup. You hear the word tunneling, you hear the word window. Watch where he's at when the pitcher or the batter has to pick up the ball. Looks like the same pitch, then it divides. One is the 2-seam fastball, the other is the changeup. So when the hitter has to make a decision, when you see swings where they're out in front or they're beat by timing against Kyle Hendricks, who by the way throws 85, it's because of that combination with his 2-seam fastball and his changeup. When he's throwing those two well, he's one of the best pitchers.
0-1 the count to Tommy Pham, who solo home run in the second, made it a 2-0 game on a hop that kicks away from Russell and on into left field. Pham takes a wide turn, happy with a 1-out single. Or we'll see if in fact Russell's charged with an error there. That's a base hit in my book.
And you see here, he'll get a fastball in, fight it off. Really good hitting again by Pham. Russell undecided. He was not sure whether he wanted to catch it in the air or if he wanted to let it bounce. And there's the indecision, and he's back on his heels. As an infielder, when in doubt, attack.
They do credit Pham with the base hit, making him 2 for 2 tonight. Now Carlos Martinez, and Pham's picked off. Wow. Oh, Tommy really got hung up there.
And what you see there is you'll see Pham looking into the catcher, looking for any tips. The reason why there's a double mistake is you're not going anywhere. Carlos Martinez is ordered to bunt you to second base. Double mistake for Pham.
So now with 2 out and the base is empty, Martinez will be swinging away.
Those are the mistakes that Jerko on a basic ground ball and that you're seeing why the Cardinals are not playing the baseball that they're customary used to playing.
Yep, the fundamentals.
Unforced mistakes will kill you.
A ball and 2 strikes to Martinez.
And when the opposition makes mistakes like that, it energizes the pitcher Hendricks, but it also energizes the Cubs. And they're basically telling themselves, wait a minute, this team doesn't want to win. They don't deserve to win. Let's go get them, boys.
2 outs with the bases empty. The 2-strike pitch home to Martinez, and it's now 2-2. You know, how much of that, and you talk about a lack of fundamentals, how much of that becomes just the onus of the player? Like, managers get fired, hitting coaches get fired. Players supposed to execute fundamentals at this level regardless of who's on the bench.
100%, and that's kind of my whole thing with sabermetrics. Numbers are great, but as a human game, there's a heartbeat, and fundamentals, whether it's football, basketball, or baseball, are king.
Could have been a promising inning for St. Louis. Instead, Hendricks gets through the Cardinals in order. Still a 2-1 St. Louis lead. In the bottom half of the 4th inning, and for Kyle Schwarber, it's back to standard baseball after a great run at the home run derby. A record 21 in the semifinals to beat Rhys Hoskins and put him in the finals against Bryce Harper, where he would end up runner-up. And after Bryce Harper won it, yeah, that was Schwarber after his 21. And then after Harper won it, he tipped his cap and graciously gave a round of applause to the eventual winner. And Kyle Schwarber, apparently, Buster, you were on the field for that on Monday night, was pretty much out of gas after that event.
He was pretty much out of gas. He joked about how after the 2nd round he got a standing ovation. When he got introduced for the 3rd round for the finals against Bryce, he was booed. And he talked about the next day how sore his arms were. He said on a typical day he makes 30 to 50 swings in batting practice, and during the course of the game he estimates it was about 10 times that. He said the next day he's pretty sore. Today still a little sore, but he's good to go.
He'll bat second here after Ian Happ leads things off in the 4th.
You know what was a cool moment is before they even got to the semis, watching Schwarber and Bryce Harper down in the cage. So down in the bowels of the stadium where no eyes were really there, and they were literally rooting on each other. We got to make it to the finals. Harper was like, I want 2 lefties. I want it to be you and I. And you know, you don't see that a lot, especially like between players from opposing teams. You don't see with Harper a lot. And so the fact that it got to be down to the 2 of them and how legitimately they were rooting each other on, it's pretty fun to watch.
Broken back ground ball to first that Carpenter makes the play on for out number 1. That'll bring Schwarber up here in the 4th. You know, Alex, I should know this. Did you ever do one? A home run derby?
I did at least 2.
Okay. Did you have the experience that I don't know, the dialogue has become almost like too prevalent, that doing the home run derby somehow messes you up for the rest of the year? Was that your experience when you participated in it?
No, I think that's nonsense. And I honestly think it's just an excuse because players don't want to do it sometimes. I was terrible, so I didn't have the luxury to go to the 2nd and 3rd and 4th round. But I'll tell you, watching Bryce Harper, I think it may have the reverse effect. I know that Bobby Abreu had a great one and then struggled, and others, you know, Judge stayed away this year.
Schwarber lines into the opposite field for out number 2.
But you take a guy like Harper, I mean, that's as much emotion, I know you were down there, Buster, as I've seen in Bryce Harper in his entire career, and it may have a reverse effect where it may, you know, make him pivot and having, hopefully for him in the Nationals, an MVP type second half.
Yeah, that was so much joy that he had on the field. I know, because I was trying to wrestle him for the post-event interview, and it felt like a go road. As one of the bleacher at the
you and
tweeters
Harper
told
wrestling.
we know it would win that one, but it was a chase, that's for sure.
I wanted to see the U.S. headband that he had on you, Buster.
Wow, would I look like a dork.
The ball on a strike to count to Addison Russell, batting with 2 gone and the bases empty here.
Yeah, that stadium was electric, though, and it definitely fueled Bryce in the perfect time.
Well, in case you missed it on Monday night, this was Bryce Harper after he edged out Kyle Schwarber by 1, 19-18, to win the home run derby in front of his hometown crowd. 9 homers in the final 41 seconds of regulation.
How about his first and his last home run in the Derby were opposite field too, and a guy that, I mean, he can crush and pull, and we talk about his swing all the time, and literally he even said the best swing he's had all year, any game, was his first swing of the home run derby.
2-2 to Addison Russell, and if you didn't get to see who was throwing to him in the home run derby, it was his dad Ron, who by the way is jacked. And I think Bryce was just as happy for Ron as he was for himself.
Ron got tired there at the end. I was nervous for Ron.
He looks like a CrossFitter. He's in great shape.
A swing and a miss by Russell to retire the side. A 1-2-3 inning for Carlos Martinez, and a still 2-1 St. Louis lead.
CrossFit.
Cardinals lead here at Wrigley. Moments ago, Buster only had a chance to visit with Cubs manager Joe Maddon.
So, Joe, what was the best thing for the Cubs in the first half?
I thought the ascension of Jason Hayward offensively. He's been playing a great game of baseball the last couple of years. He's a really good baseball player, but all of a sudden this year the offense has come back. You saw the line drive to left field right there with 2 strikes. His hands are much more active. If you make a mistake, middle inning, he can put in the seats. But if you're going to be tough with 2 strikes, he'll do that, and I love him for it.
Brandon Morrow on the DL. How are you going to finish games?
One pitcher at a time. It doesn't really matter. We got a bunch of guys that are qualified. Cishek, Stroper, qualified. Carl Edwards. Justin Wilson has done it before too. So it'll just be about the moment, who we're facing, and who's ready to do it.
Joe, thanks.
Matt Carpenter leads things off in the St. Louis half of the 5th. Carpenter, Molina, and DeYoung. 2-1 Cardinals here in the 5th inning. And an 0-2 count to Matt Carpenter. You know, as Buster's visiting with Joe Maddon, and we think about, of course, the impact that Joe has had everywhere he's gone, from his long days with the Angels to his days in Tampa St. Pete, of course, winning World Series here in 2016. You like to use the term, Jess, secret sauce. There's something in Joe Maddon's secret sauce, proprietary mathematics, that they're never going to completely reveal to us, that just work. There's something about the touch this guy has, the human touch, his math, the way he evaluates, the way he relates to players. It just works as Matt Carpenter lines out to right. And here's an example of that. Matt Carpenter is one of the best hitters in the division. Since Joe Maddon arrived in Chicago, Matt Carpenter's had 66 games against the Cubs, and he's hitting a .159 against Chicago during that time. They don't shift a lot. They shift against Carpenter, and by and large, it works. One away as Yadi Molina digs in now.
Well, that's what's crazy is you look at the numbers Matt Carpenter has, as you mentioned, against every other team, and then his career numbers against the Cubs. And that is no coincidence of just the type of pitchers that are throwing in. I credit a lot of that to Joe Maddon in the way that he has recognized how to get one of the better rival hitters in their division out.
1 ball and 1 strike to Yadi Molina. Cubs play Molina straight up, as they do for most everybody else. StatCast powered by AWS. Only the Angels shift less frequently than the Cubs, and that might come as a surprise to people, given that Joe gets a lot of credit for being at the forefront of how sabermetricians have changed the game.
I had a chance to spend some time in their sabermetrics room this afternoon, Matt, and you know, Mike Borzello, who was formerly with the Yankees, has 5 championships, 4, and a gentleman by the name of Hodavy, who used to pitch for the Kansas City Royals. They run this department with a number of other really smart people down there, and I could not believe what I was seeing. I mean, if you were a chemist, you couldn't understand a lot of these numbers. And this is a program that Theo Epstein calls the Ivy program. And they've invested millions and millions of dollars into this program. And what you do is you have about 7 or 8 guys that basically take that information, funnel it, and then give it to Contreras for pitching sequences, or Chris Bryant to what to look for, how to get a guy like Carpenter out. So that secret sauce has a lot to do with Joe, but the sabermetrics has a lot to do with Jed Hoyer and Theo Epstein.
Molina sends a fly ball to the right field corner, and Hayward runs out of room. You know, every team, I think, I shouldn't say every, because I know that there are some that are a little behind the curve here, but I think the progressive teams, the winning teams, have their own proprietary math that you talk about, a program with which they evaluate and install strategy. The Cardinals are certainly no different. I know John Mosaic values that same kind of information. There's a base hit for Molina. Quick reminder, MLB.TV is available at a lower price, $82.99, and you can watch every out-of-market regular season game live or on demand. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV to take advantage of this special offer. You know, it's interesting for the Cardinals too, because if we can circle back to their rookie interim manager, Mike Shildt, 8 years managing at the minor league system, at the minor league level for the Cardinals, and at that level there's just not the same kind of information that's available for major league players, your own and the opponent. 0-1 the count to Paul DeYoung. A great opportunity for a baseball lifer who, as Buster told us earlier, used to work in the clubhouse. He did everything from stir the nacho cheese to change the numbers on the scoreboard to shine the shoes in Charlotte. 0-2 the count to DeYoung.
I just love the image that he told us. 8 years old, his first job for that AA team for the Orioles down in Charlotte that Buster had told us about. And he's chasing foul balls for $5 a night, which if you're 8 years old, that's a pretty good living. And how he'd grab it from other people's hands, because if he didn't get 2 balls a night, he wasn't getting his $5.
And for me, that's what makes baseball absolutely the greatest game in the world. I mean, to look at two guys that have had great success this year, like Aaron Boone and Cora, who've come from basically baseball royalty, and you have a guy like Mike Schultz. I mean, I sat there for 50 minutes with you guys, and it just, I didn't want to leave the room. You just want to cheer for him, and his story is fabulous. The one thing that I loved was that he looks at Tony La Russa, one of the all-time great managers, as his mentor. And the fact that La Russa showed up one day, sat at his desk, and that night they went to dinner to 4 o'clock in the morning, having all type of great conversations. Pretty great story.
One of the things I think, and we talked about this, that Cardinal fans are going to see a little bit more of is just a little bit more lineup consistency. And, you know, Mike said this not as a knock on his predecessor, because he and Mike Matheny are very close, but he wants to make Carpenter, Molina, DeYoung, Ozuna the top of his lineup for the most part every night. There might be some changes. Certainly a guy needs a blow, somebody's hurt,
Lefty.
There's a matchup you don't love, but this is going to be the group that he runs with until further notice.
I love that approach. I think it's something that's great. I think comfort trumps sabermetrics in this case. I think, again, we talked about it. If you come to an office and you're on the 4th floor on Monday, and on Tuesday you're on the 8th, and on Wednesday you're on the 9th, I mean, it's going to drive you crazy. The same thing goes for a hitter. You want comfort. Ted Williams hit 3rd. Joe DiMaggio hit 3rd. Mickey Mantle hit 3rd. Stan Musial hit 3rd. Ernie Banks hit 3rd. And that, when you drive to the ballpark, is great.
DeYoung straightened up on a called strike 3.
And this is the pitch that Joe Madden even told us pregame of Kyle Hendricks. It's this backdoor two-seamer. See how it barely, you're talking as barely as you possibly can, as you see the 3D K-zone just clip that outside part. But what it does is it starts, look at where it is. It's out, and then it just bends enough. Good framing by Victor Corratini to get that call.
So now Marcell Ozuna. Ozuna's driven in one of the 2 St. Louis runs tonight. He did so with an RBI single in the first.
And here's the pitch that Joe Madden alluded to earlier in his office. This pitch right here is perfect. The problem with it, when you fight your mechanics, that bleeds all the way to the middle of the plate. You saw it earlier in Pham's home run.
And Ozuna's got his 2nd base hit of the night.
And you see him try to make the same exact pitch and just miss just by a couple of inches, but that's all it takes with these great Major League Baseball hitters. 3 inches can go a long ways. One is a strikeout, one is a rocket. And when you throw 85 to 88, your margin of error is very small. If you're throwing 98, sometimes it doesn't even matter. That's not the case for Hendricks.
Well, Kyle Hendricks here in the 5th is creeping up on a season-high pitch count. That's 109. He did that 2 starts ago. That great start he had against the Giants that Alex talked about earlier. He's 4 2/3 into the ball game and already approaching a season high. That's been part of the problem for Kyle this year. He's gotten through 5 in all but one of his starts, but in many cases not a lot farther, as Brian Dunsing's up in the Chicago bullpen.
Matt, you mentioned earlier the lack of swing and misses on the changeup. Well, when he's on and his mechanics are on point, like they were when he threw against the San Francisco Giants and threw 8 1/3, you get a lot of easy outs, you get a lot of swing and misses. What you're seeing today is a lot of foul balls and a lot of takes, which result in a very high pitch count.
So now Jed Jerko with runners at 1st and 2nd and 2 away. Jerko has singled and bounced back to the mound. You know, you talk about the small margin for error for Kyle Hendricks, Alex, and I think because he doesn't light up the radar gun, there's always this sense that, you know, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop with Hendricks. Even when he was at his best in 2016 as a part of their World Series rotation, there were those that were like, he's been good, but, you know what I mean? Because he doesn't light up the radar gun.
Well, and there's something about even his presence, the way he throws. There's no max effort, you know, just this all coming at you as a hitter. You look at him and it's just this ho-hum, here I go, 85. But that's where he's sneaky, because he has, when he's going well, as Alex said, it's because he has these pitches that look like cookies. They look like they're good, but just enough movement. He's not the guy that's going to try to go 90 and plus. He's the guy that's going to try to move it.
He's that guy. He's Greg Maddux light. Let's take a look at StatCast AI, and he is a master, as Greg Maddux was, at inducing the soft contact. Lowest average exit velos, and two of the guys on that board are in our matchup tonight, Carlos Martinez and Kyle Hendricks.
You know, one thing that makes Kyle Hendricks an anomaly is he's the only guy in that list as a soft thrower. So he throws it soft, they hit it soft. That gives you hope, Matt, that he is different, that he is an anomaly. We showed that in the 2016 World Series. Before Lester came in the game, I thought Joe Maddon pulled him very early. He wasn't even sweating, and that shows that he can pitch in the biggest stage and pitch really well.
Trying to wiggle off a bases loaded hook here to Colton Wong, and it's a ball and a strike. A 1-out single. Then Molina with a or Zuna rather, with a 2-out single. Then the base on balls to Jerko. Have given the Cardinals a bases loaded opportunity here in the 5th. One to Wong. 2 balls and a strike now. Jim Hickey making some notes on a scorecard, already with his bullpen hot, as we showed you. Brian Dunsing doesn't take a whole lot of time to get ready. He's ready to go. Here's the 2-1. 2-2 now.
Well, Kyle Hendricks can get this pitch called all night. He needs to keep going back there, especially to these lefties. That's a ball off the plate. Good break for him.
Bases loaded with 2 guys. A 2-2 home. A chopper over the mound. Russell lays out and can't get it out of the glove. Everybody's safe. A run scores, and it's 3-1 St. Louis. Almost a highlight play by Addison Russell. And I think Addison knocked the wind out of himself.
Very good play here by Addison Russell. Didn't get an out, but saved a run. And as an infielder, you're taught to keep everything in the infield. Well, Russell did just that. Nice play by Russell.
That will be the end of the night for Kyle Hendricks. He'll be unable to finish 5. He'll leave with a run in, 2 gone, and the bases loaded. And on the trailing end of a 3-1 score, a pitching change. We'll be right back. A very acrobatic shortstop, and this is what happens when your belt is loose to begin with. You hit the ground on your belly and it's just going to break right off. Here, get rid of this. And Addison good enough to stick around. Brian Dunsing on for Kyle Hendricks. Veteran left-hander and one of the 3 left-handed options out of the Cubs bullpen. Off to a great start this year, had a .54 ERA through the end of May. Then some shoulder fatigue set in. Put him on the DL for the first 2 weeks of this month. And ready for the final push after coming off the shelf just before the All-Star break. Dealing with Ozuna, Jerko, and Wong aboard, a run in and 2 away. And trying to keep it clean for Hendricks, who leaves with a still open line. 9 hits allowed, ties a career high for a home start for Kyle.
Nice block here on a fastball. Maybe a cutter. Self-defense there. Nice job of keeping that ball in front.
3 balls and no strikes to Fowler.
And this should be a take sign, a bright red take sign.
He does indeed take a strike. It's 3-1. Tommy Pham waits next. He homered and singled against Hendricks tonight. The chance for the Cardinals to open up some mid-game breathing room here. Fowler laces that one just foul. You got to make that play in the stands, by the way. That hit that dude in the hands.
I don't think he had a glove, though.
Yeah, not that dude, not the young guy.
All over the 10-year-olds or what?
No, but I think there comes a point as a grown man when you're too old to bring a glove to the ballpark, I believe.
Where if you put your hand out, you have to catch it?
If that guy had a glove, he makes the play.
This could be the biggest pitch of the game. This will release Wong. So on a long single, it could be 3 runs on a single.
3-2 pitch, and Fowler shoots it foul again.
It also means that if you're Chris Bryant or Russell, there is no force play at second. So we've seen some fundamental plays bobbled for errors. It forces you to throw across a diamond, and Dexter Fowler can still run a little bit, so keep that in mind.
The next 3-2 pitch, and Fowler puts this one in play. A good play by Bryant despite the bogey running past him. Jed Jerko did everything he could to try to get in the way. Only 1 in the top half of the 5th. Middle of the night in a 3-1 Cardinals lead. On July 27th to host the Cubs and Rockies in a 7-game homestand. Visit Cardinals now to see Carpenter, Martinez, and Molina in action at Busch Stadium. It is Carlos Martinez that goes back to work in the bottom of the 5th inning for Victor Caratini, pinch hitter Tommy La Stella, and then Anthony Rizzo. 3-1 St. Louis here in the middle of the night. And a strike to Caratini to put him behind 0-2. Two teams will see a lot of each other in the first couple of weeks out of the break.
Those are my favorite seats. Bleacher seats at Wrigley.
Is there anything more obnoxious than the bachelorette party at the ballpark, by the way? I mean,
why is it obnoxious?
Congratulations, by the way. Yeah, we're all very happy for you. Because it's just, I don't know. It's such a look at me thing. You're sitting behind like the bridal party. Like, oh my God, you're getting married.
Wow. It's kind of harsh. I'd do a bachelorette party at a ball. That's where I'd probably be.
I love it, Matt.
Take that over the alternative.
Which is what? Vegas?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
A base hit by Caratini. Oh, no, it's not at all. It is now, but almost denied on a good play by DeYoung. That looked like it was bouncing up the middle. DeYoung did a great job to put a glove on it, but the throw goes bad, and Caratini's in at second base.
Nice play on the front end here in catching the ball. The mistake is in throwing it. Right here, you just have to put this ball in your pocket and concede the base hit. Only bad things can happen the minute you release that ball right there. And as a shortstop, that's something that you think about 3 or 4 seconds right before the pitch is thrown. You're thinking about where it's going to be hit and work on your internal clock on how fast the runner is.
A single credited to Caratini, and the second error of the night charged to St. Louis, and now Tommy La Stella with a runner in scoring position. La Stella has been terrific as a pinch hitter this year. 14 hits off the bench. That's the most in Major League Baseball. 1-1. Two balls and a strike to La Stella. Carlos Martinez has yielded only the 3 hits tonight. Only 1 for extra bases. That was Rizzo's first inning double that led off the ball game. Not much happening since that point. On the ground is short. Caratini to third on the first out of the inning. Well, we had the discussion earlier about some of the names that are out there on the trade block among pitchers. Among position players, Brian Dozier of the Twins, that's gotten some heat in Milwaukee, among other places. And Mike Moustakas could help somebody. So could his teammate Alcides Escobar, by the way. Adam Jones is in a walk year. Wilson Ramos is on the DL. So perhaps not as much impact there. But Buster, what do you have on this group of position players?
Yeah. Because he was someone who was viewed, I think, as a backup plan for a number of teams. The Milwaukee Brewers, perhaps most notably. They were involved.
Anthony Rizzo with a ball into the right center field gap. Hold that thought, Buster, as Anthony Rizzo has just driven in a run on his second double of the night.
One of the things that has been the biggest difference with Anthony Rizzo has been his timing. We saw him get a double earlier in the game on a fastball middle in, and then here he gets a changeup. It's running away from him, but he's all over it. Watch when he gets that front foot down with that leg kick, recognizing the pitch and still able to poke it into that right center field gap. When we saw him struggle, he was ahead of the changeup, behind on the fastball, couldn't seem to get his timing right since he's been on fire, especially in this leadoff position tonight, seeing both pitches well.
Here's Chris Bryant now.
The Cubs offense capitalizing again on Cardinals' poor defense. The trend continues for the Cardinals.
Bryant with a shot that gets past DeYoung. Rizzo had to hold off second base, so he can only advance 90 feet. And here come the Cubs in the 5th.
Nice hitting here by Chris Bryant. The mistake for Rizzo is not knowing where the shortstop's playing prior to the ball's hit. And the rule of thumb is know where your infielders are prior to, and if that ball is hit behind you, which it was, he should score easily, knowing that if the shortstop has to go hard to his left, never, hardly ever will he throw behind you to third base. That's a mental mistake more than a physical mistake.
Brian Butterfield having that conversation right now.
Well, while Mike Maddox comes out to visit with his starter, we can revisit those names on the trade blockbuster just to finish the thought.
Conversations, and now that he's gone on to the Dodgers, you do wonder if they'll turn to the Twins and to Brian Dozier. Their second basemen are 24th out of 30 teams in OPS. The shortstops are 29th out of 30 teams. That's one place where they certainly can upgrade. You do wonder as time goes on as well if the Boston Red Sox might get involved in the conversations for Brian Dozier, with some uncertainty at this point around Dustin Pedroia's future this year.
Well, I'll say this, Buster, that if another season passes where the Brewers can't add around the deadline, there are going to be some people just north of here who are really upset about that. Last year they had a big lead at the break and didn't add anybody, and it slipped away. Good team in Milwaukee. They could use help at second base. Brian Dozier's a second half monster. That's the perfect recipe, and I'm sure that those discussions will be following up on over the next 10 days.
Well, especially when you know the Cubs are most likely going to do something. And as close as these teams have battled in the first half, the Brewers and the Cubs, Brewers are only 2.5 games back. You got to think that if they don't add, then it allows the Cubs to be able to take this division in the second half.
0-1 the count to Jason Hayward, who has singled in a run tonight.
Guys, I'm really curious to see what happens with Adam Jones. He's a free agent at year's end. Would the Orioles want to trade him after trading Manny Machado? I don't know. Maybe Adam Jones wants to go and finish this year, though, with a contender.
Hayward with another base hit to drive in a run. 2 in the 5th, and the Cubs have pulled even.
And Hayward, continuing his hot hitter, will get a changeup out over the plate and takes advantage of the hole right here. Changeup all over it. And as a left-handed hitter, is exactly what you want to do right here. You want to pull the baseball. Not only do you drive in the run, but you get Chris Bryant, who's one of the game's best base runners, getting to third base here. One of the most underrated parts of his game is base running, and maybe the best base runner in the game today.
So now Ben Zobrist in a 3-3 game. Runners at the corners with only one away. What a night Jason Hayward is in the midst of. In the 3rd, a single down the opposite line that came at the conclusion of a very long battle with Martinez.
Two strikes.
Yep, 2 strikes early in the count here. And he singles into the right field corner to drive in a run. And now Zobrist bounces one foul.
Talk about the Joe Madden mojo. And part of it is Jason Hayward. I don't think he gets enough credit for hanging in with Jason, for being always talking to him, communicating with him, advocating to this town that not only is he a 5-time Gold Glove winner, but he's also an exceptional offensive player. And now we're seeing it. Nice job, assist, Joe Madden.
Although you could argue, because in the midst of when he was really struggling, the amount of money that he was making, it was hard to think to put him on the bench.
Yeah.
Because there were times that, I mean, it almost screamed it, and he looked like it. And he would bench him maybe a game here and there, but there's definitely been times in the past where Jason Hayward, if he wasn't making the money he was,
in the air to center field for Pham. who will park under it to make the catch. Bryant tags up and scores. To second goes Hayward, and Chicago has its first lead of the game.
And Ben Zobrist doing what it takes to be a world champion, proving what he did in 2016 for this team. To me, from all the hits and all the doubles, this is the most impressive at bat. Doing exactly what a cleanup hitter is supposed to do. Play small ball, fundamental baseball. Nice at bat there for Ben Zobrist. And excellent base running from Jason Hayward.
There's Kyle Schwarber now. The 7th Cub to come to the plate in a so far 3-run inning.
You don't see a lot of runners tagged from first base with a ball hit to center field that isn't near the warning track and take second. And as much as you want to credit Hayward, I also think with Tommy Pham, he knew that run was going to score. He didn't get behind it. I mean, if I'm a center fielder, I'm insulted. The runner at first took second on me with it right in front of me. That's the shortest throw of any outfielder.
Ball and a strike, the count to Ian Happ. Ian Happ the batter, Schwarber on deck.
Carlos Martinez has been a shadow of himself after the Jerko error at third base.
Yeah, the pace has been different. So has his command. He's only walked one tonight, and if you're looking for positives for Martinez's performance, that's the big takeaway. Walks have been his downfall this year. But his 3-1 lead has gone away. The Cardinals find themselves trailing, and it's 1-2 now to Happ.
Think even about the hits this inning. I mean, it starts out with a ground ball, weak ground ball up the middle. Young makes a great play to get to it, but he throws the ball away, runner at second. You know, besides the double to Rizzo, Bryant and Hayward, both those hits were just seeing eye ground balls that found their way.
Drive to right, and you can tell that one goodbye. Number 12 for Ian Happ. A 5-run inning against Carlos Martinez. And now it's Schwarber. But just as loud as this place got a moment ago, this feels like a golf match now. Come on, everybody. There you go. The strike on the corner, it's 1-1. The wheels have just absolutely come off for Carlos Martinez here. First 11 batters, he allowed a hit and a walk. The last 12, 6 runs on 6 hits. And to your point, Alex, the Jerko error came on the 11th batter of the night. That indeed started the bad times. And not to pin it all on Jed, it just kind of changed the field tonight.
Well, it came with 2 outs. They were out of that inning. And so that's what the entire, I feel like, feeling is. He ended up having to, I think, pitch 14 pitches after that and struggled.
That's why for those, and there's a large camp out there that says strikeouts don't matter. Every out's the same. Well, this is a perfect example of putting the ball in play, forcing the defense to make 20, 21 outs. It's paramount.
Oh, look at Anthony Rizzo just getting into the spirit of the thing here.
He heard you, Matt.
Schwarber with a rocket that's gobbled up by Colton Wong, not before the damage is done, and quite a bit of it. Ian Happ's homer capping off a 5-run inning. And it's a whole new storyline at Wrigley tonight. The Cubs on top 6-3. Homer capping off a 5-run inning, giving the Cubs their first lead of the game as we check in on a 6-3 Cubs advantage. And Buster Olney had a chance to check in with the new Cardinals manager Mike Shildt between innings.
Like 2 more defensive mistakes really hurt you guys tonight as you take over. What have you guys talked about to improve that part of the team?
Yeah, I mean, these guys are big league defenders, and clearly they're bothered by it as much as we all are. We got guys in the right spot where they're comfortable, and a couple plays it didn't make, and we got to overcome them.
Yadier Molina has been installed in the number 2 spot. He's got 3 hits. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, you like guys at the top of the lineup, you're better hitters, and Yadi's one of our better hitters, more consistent hitters. So you got Carp and Yadi, and looking pretty good.
Mike, thanks.
Anthony Bass is the new pitcher on the mound for the Chicago Cubs as he takes over here in the top of the 6th inning. Tommy Pham will lead things off. A pinch hitter bats next, and then the top of the order, Matt Carpenter. Bass making his 15th appearance of the year. Very good numbers for him, a sub-1 ERA. And he gets a ground ball from Pham, who will be retired for the first time tonight. Once again this Sunday night, Subway Series finale between the Mets and Yankees. A great pitching matchup. Jacob deGrom and Masahiro Tanaka. Our coverage starts at 7 Eastern on ESPN. With baseball tonight, Sunday Night Countdown is also streaming live on the ESPN app. It's a Yankee lineup that broke a major league record for homers before the All-Star break.
How crazy is that AL East race too? If that continues, and just even though now it's 4.5 games between the two, but how the Red Sox and the Yankees are playing right now. The Yankees are on pace for 107 wins, but they could be a wild card team.
Got Gary Sanchez off the disabled list. We'll see him this weekend. Count is 0-1 to Greg Garcia. Garcia pinch hitting in the pitcher spot here with 1 gone in the 6th. If the Yankees win the wild card and then lose the wild card game, does Major League Baseball change the rules regarding the wild card?
They better not, because what bothers me about that, it's because it's the Yankees. I mean, there's been a lot of good teams, and in fact, in this division alone, when you think about how good the Cardinals, the Cubs,
talking
the
about
Pirates.
a 98-win Pirates team that couldn't get past the wild card round, yeah.
And it was
Jessica,
never.
what's wrong with the Yankees?
There's nothing. It's that when the Yankees, they're like the team that they win 100 games and they don't make it past the wild card game. I feel like that's when this conversation is happening more than any other team. And we've seen some great ones lose that wild card game.
Garcia sprays a one-hopper to third. Great play by Bryant.
Taking a sinker here, blown away. This ball be fading. Great job here by Chris Bryant, getting below the ball. 6'5", very hard to do. And probably the hardest play a third baseman has to do. This ball is fading away. And one thing he does really well, that head stays really, really low. And then once he catches it, is playing catch with his good buddy Rizzo. Put a star on that one.
So now Matt Carpenter for a third time tonight. Check that, for a fourth time tonight. He was hit by a pitch in the second. A strikeout and a line out to right, in addition to that hit batsman. Bass with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball on the corner.
And how good is Chris Bryant? He makes that play, and then he goes out and plays short right field. I mean, this guy is so versatile. The ability to hit 50 home runs, to play Gold Glove defense, to play solid outfield. This type of versatility is so unusual.
I think about the year he won the MVP. I felt like one of the biggest arguments. I mean, he has the bat and all the numbers that he shows, but to me, it was two things. It's his base running, which you talked about, is so underrated, but his ability to play right field, to play third base, to play first base. I mean, there were so many positions he played that year. We're not seeing it as much this season, but to me, MVP is where you bring value, and for him, it's all over in every aspect.
And for a guy like Joe Maddon, who loves to have pieces to his chessboard, I mean, he is the ideal Joe Maddon player, a superstar that's great enough to win an MVP and a World Series, but with an ego that can really float around anywhere. I could not tell you how many superstars would say, I'm never changing position, especially if it's 4 or 5.
You gonna name some of them?
Didn't get the call on that high pitch, and it's a ball and 2 strikes to Carpenter now.
Players with egos, that would never happen in baseball. Come on. And that's
Never.
where Bryant stands out so much. The humility.
Still 1-2 to Matt Carpenter. Bass comes on in relief of Dunsing, who finished off the 5th for Kyle Hendricks. And so far for Anthony, a ground ball and then a line drive that a great play was made on. Bass, by the way, was the roster move added to the Cubs roster when Brandon Morrow was placed on the DL today. A move that might have further repercussions. Carpenter into the opposite field and well hit. Schwarber turns his numbers to the infield, and it's gone. Homers in 3 straight for Matt Carpenter, and it's back to a 2-run game.
Matt Carpenter, one of those players that struggled early in the season but has been on fire since mid-May. And even though he's pulling the ball more this season than he ever has, watch where this pitch is located, and it's running away. It is not easy to be, first of all, a pull hitter primarily, and then to be able to do what he does here. Let this ball get so deep in the zone and then have the power to hit it all the way out in the left center. And that's been the difference to me is yeah, Carpenter is hitting the ball to the right side of the field more, but he's had success in the fact that when the ball shows him, when the strike is away, he's able to also have power to opposite field.
Matt Carpenter is 32 years old. That's a reminder of Matt Carpenter at 22. And what a sweet swing.
2 balls and no strikes to count to Yadi Molina. You know, if you're gonna be that guy that has the Debbie Downer note on a big moment like a home run.
You gonna be that guy?
Yeah, well, 18 of his 20 have come with the bases empty. Not entirely Matt's fault.
Where he's been at in the lineup. I mean, not the entire season.
When you're hitting leadoff, yeah, that's going to happen.
Especially in the National League when you're after a pitcher a lot.
I think it's just another footnote in the long series of footnotes about a dysfunctional lineup so far this year. Molina's got another hit. My goodness, his 4th of the ball game.
You have to love Molina. Everything about him. Fastball. Good pitch. Low and away. And tonight he's hit everything. Away, in, here's away again. Same result. Bullet right back up the middle.
Well, Yadi Molina enjoyed his best pre-All-Star break campaign this year since 2012. And he is picking up right where he left off here on the other side of the break.
And Matt, I think he's enjoying the number 2 spot in the lineup. He started on Sunday. He had a good day. He's doing it again today with 4 hits. This year he's 10 for 15 batting in the 2 spot.
All right. I mean, that's hard to argue with that kind of success. Don't expect to see him anywhere else for the near future. So that'll bring up Paul DeJong now as the tying run, a man on and 2 away here in the visitors' half of the 6th. DeJong's hit safely in 7 of 8 since his return off the DL. Hitless so far tonight, and it'll stay that way. One of them comes back on the Carpenter home run to the bottom of the 6th inning. A now 2-run Cubs lead.
Cardinals, the trend continues, a negative one that is, tonight with 2 more errors. 79 to lead the league. And another error, a mental one by Pham. Here's that ball, should be put in your pocket. And again, if you're a Cardinals fan and you've been a Cardinal fan for decades, it's something that you're not used to. Going back to the Whitey Herzog days, they've been synonymous with great fundamentals. This year, it has not been the case.
Yeah, some of those self-inflicted wounds are part of the reason the Cardinals trail here 6-4 Cubs as we go to the bottom half of the 6th inning. And a pitching change for St. Louis as the right-hander Sam Tuivailala takes over. The 25-year-old right-hander making his 29th appearance of the year. He'll get the bottom of the order for Chicago here in the bottom of the 6th. Russell, Caratini, and then the pitcher spot for the Cubs. You know, as much as we talk about the Cardinals having their share of defensive problems this year, Russell grounds to shortstop for DeYoung, and the throw's in the dirt, and lo and behold, we can't even get out of the way of it, and it happens again.
And this is painful to watch if you're a Cardinals fan. If you're a baseball fan, this is unfortunate. DeYoung right here throwing a ball, very simple play, just play catch with Carpenter, usually sure-handed shortstop, and just can't get it there. You know, often you talk about hitting being contagious. Well, so is bad defense.
80 errors now for St. Louis after that one, their third of this game. And here's Caratini now. So what I was getting ready to say was, getting back to our glass half full evaluation of the Cardinals, only 4 back of the second wild card spot. And these two teams, the Cubs and Cardinals, will be involved in the dialogue for the rest of the summer and through the early part of the fall, if they have their say in it. Each team with a winning record in each of the last 3 seasons. And by the way, you've got to go back to the 1930s to find the last time the Cubs and Cardinals each produced more wins than losses in 4 straight years. Something that each of these teams have a chance of doing this season. Oh, 0-1 to Caratini. That breeze has been steadily blowing out and to left field for most of the night.
Perfect night for hitting.
Boy, if you blink your eyes and look at Victor Caratini in the batter's box,
Yeah.
short of the shin guard and the baggier britches, he's Anthony Rizzo in there.
Yeah, where he's at in the batter's box. Almost emulating that same rhythm.
The stance, the rhythm.
You know, the person I thought you were going to go, it doesn't look like him, but the 7 catcher reminds me of Jody Davis. Remember Jody Davis?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Catcher? I'm dating myself a little bit now.
It's all right. Hey, look, we all watched a lot of WGN in the 80s.
That's right. Except Jody was much taller and was a right-handed hitter. A pull hitter with power.
2 balls and a strike to count to Victor Caratini. Russell runs. Brilliant execution of the hit and run. That is a thing of absolute beauty.
Caratini taking this fastball right here up and in, and again taking full advantage of the hole. And if you're a baseball fan, this is exciting baseball. This is the way baseball should be played. Putting the ball in play, first to third, sacrifice play. Man, is this fun.
Well, and getting an elevated fastball, like you said, and knowing what to do with it. I mean, we've seen that pitch be a swing and miss now in baseball so much, but when you put on the hit and run, it allows you to be so short to a pitch that's usually tough to hit.
Not everything has to be launch angle and fly balls. There's other ways to score, line to line.
The pinch hitter is Albert Almora now. Runners hit the corners with nobody out. Always be mindful of Joe Madden's magic bag of tricks. One that may or may not include a squeeze play at this moment, and I think that might be on the mind of the Cardinals. Russell opened the inning, reaching safely on the error. Caratini singles on the hit and run, and the Cubs are in a good position to add on with one of their hotter hitters at the plate. Albert Almora was not supposed to be the everyday guy in center field for the Cubs this year. He and Ian Happ were designed to platoon, but then some injuries to Ben Zobrist, Jason Hayward, then Ian Happ struggled. Almora ended up getting the lion's share of at-bats in center, and he has really taken off this year. Swing and a miss puts him even at 1-1.
He was someone that I was surprised didn't end up being in that all-star conversation at the end to really get in there, just because of the offensive year that he's had. The defense has always been there, but he's been dynamic for this team, and completely underrated because there's so many stars on this Cubs team, and I think that's where it hurts you, is when you got Contreras and Baez and Schwarber and Lester. You already have so many all-stars, and a guy like Almora Jr. would have made his world to be able to be selected as well.
And Brian Butterfield, the third base coach, a 22-year Major League veteran, going through his signs, and what he's going to go, he's going to whisper something in Russell. With no outs is not likely, but you'll see it more with one out. A little whisper, and sometimes it's just a verbal for a squeeze or a safety squeeze.
Well, we do know this, that Brian Butterfield doesn't really have to travel any great distance to get whatever signal he's getting from Joe Madden, because they could touch each other with the new proximity of the revised home dugout.
That is such a different look. To be located there.
They're right on top of each other.
On the home plate end of the dugout.
Shattered bat and a ground ball to third. Jerko comes home. The tag applied by Molina, and they get the out at the plate.
Nice play here by Jerko. Good decision, obviously coming home. Hit too soft for the double play. Just playing catch there with Molina. Molina textbook on the catch and the tag. The 8-time Gold Glover, Molina. Molina, part of the three-headed monster Molina brothers, all catchers, all world champions.
So the play at the plate ruled the fielder's choice, puts runners at first and second with one gone now for the top of the order, Anthony Rizzo, who's got a couple of doubles on his line tonight. Caratini the runner at second, Almora with good speed at first. You know, by the way, back to Albert Almora, as we're seeing him for the first time as a pinch hitter tonight. Leads all major league center fielders with a .319 batting average. That is center fielders with at least 50 games at the position and 200 plate appearances. That's a better batting average than Mike Trout, Lorenzo Cain, Charlie Blackmon, among others. Oh, 0-2 to Rizzo. To your point, Jess, that he could have made a pretty good case as an all-star this year.
Absolutely. And again, I like it too because it considers the totality of how he plays the game. I mean, he can run the bases. He is incredible to watch in the outfield. He's an athlete.
He was a 6th pick in 2012 out of Miami, Hialeah High School. Cousins with Manny Machado.
I think everybody has some kind of a familial connection to Manny Machado, right? His brother-in-law plays first base for the Indians. His cousin's here as a Cub.
He showed up at your house, Alex, when he was 10 or whatever that was.
Yeah, what advice did you give him, by the way?
He's like an octopus. Well, I hope he didn't take any of my advice. He's done very well. No, but seriously, Jessica, you know, his mother's Dominican, just like my mother, and I just thought it was so incredibly impressive for him to have the confidence as a 15-year-old to say, hey, I want some advice. I watched him come out of high school out of Westminster Christian. You know, he told me he used to wear number 3, now he wears 13. And I just basically said go out and do everything you can to prepare and put yourself in the best position to win. And the one thing that's puzzling for me, I knew he was an incredible kind of historic type player potentially. And the Orioles are sitting there with this talent for 8 years, and they don't sign him to a long-term contract. I don't know the reason. I do not understand the reasoning behind it.
Ball and no strikes, the count to Chris Bryant. Extended a 4-game hitting streak with a single in the 5th.
Alex, I'm there with you. I thought they were going to sign him after his 2nd or 3rd year, and short of that, once you don't do that, they really should have traded him after his 4th year. But instead, they waited. It was surprising to a lot of teams. They waited through last winter to trade him and into this summer, and now you probably wind up getting 40, 50% of the return you might have gotten if you traded him 2 years ago.
Correct. I think
Bryant rolls one to 3rd. Jerko will do it himself to retire the side. 2 are left stranded in the 6th. We're heading to the top of the 7th. Still 6-4 Chicago. Major League Baseball on ESPN is presented by the LG G7 Thin Q, and it's brought to you by a Tesla. Learn more at atesla.com. Hey, coming up next, the world's best action sports athletes will be competing at X Games Minneapolis, and we'll have the Pacifico Skateboard and BMX Vert Finals. You can also watch the X Games streaming live on the ESPN app. Steve Cishek takes over on the mound for Chicago. He inherits a 2-run lead and goes to work on Marcell Ozuna, Jed Jerko, and Colton Wong, the middle of the Cardinals lineup. Cishek with terrific numbers, and as Joe Madden told Buster Olney earlier, closer's experience in the Brandon Morrow void as he gets Ozuna to start the inning. So 1 gone here in the 7th, and that'll bring up Jed Jerko. The strike to Jerko. Jed's got a walk and a single on his line tonight. if you're talking career saves, and we talked about Brandon Morrow being on the disabled list as of today, Cechek leads the bullpen with 124. Pedro Strop is closed. They see Carl Edwards maybe sometime down the road as a closer. Not a stretch to envision him in that role. Justin Wilson has closed. So there might not be a lot of technically all-star experience there, but plenty of closers experience in the Cubs bullpen.
Oh, and closer stuff. Even the guys like you mentioned, like the Carl Edwards Jr. that might not even have a ton of experience in the ninth. Definitely has the stuff.
2 quick outs here for Cechek as he strikes out Jerko.
The angles that Cechek's able to get. I mean, look at exactly where he releases the ball, and then the movement and the break that it gets coming up in the zone almost has like that rise ball effect. And what it is, it's not actually rising, it's just not moving down in the way that you usually see a fastball do it. And that's probably one of the biggest things. We can talk velocity, we can talk, you know, movement on pitches, but to me deception is also a huge part of the game today. And you get guys like a Steve Cechek that has the stuff, yes, but it's where the angles he creates, especially out of the bullpen.
Quickly 0-2 to Colton Wong. You know, as good as the Cubs have been late in games, and this is usually where they add on, the Cardinals can ill afford any more falling behind. And they'd like to start picking away sooner rather than later, as we're already in the 7th. We saw Mike Shildt there, the interim manager of the Cardinals. You see he's wearing number 8. Changed his number when he got the interim job in honor of course, the guy whose shoes he used to clean at AA Charlotte, the great Cal Ripken. And it kind of relates to the Machado deal that we talked about earlier, because reports were Machado was going to wear number 73 in LA. He's going to wear number 8 because he couldn't in Baltimore. A quick 1-2-3 7th authored by Steve Cechek. Ball on ESPN presented by LG. Back with Alex Rodriguez, Jessica Mendoza, Buster Olney, Matt Vasgersian in a 6-4 Chicago lead. And when you look at the contenders in the NL Central, and we don't mean to disrespect the Pirates here because they did in fact win 6 in a row getting into the break, the Cubs have more home cooking ahead than not only any of these 3 teams, but from just about everybody in baseball. They had a very road-heavy first half of the schedule, the fewest home games in the majors to date, as a matter of fact. And that's all going to come around after the break.
Well, I'm excited for Cubs and Brewers especially, just to see really what this Brewers team looks like the second half. I mean, this was a team first half last year that was leading the division and then ended up kind of tiring in the second half, but they went and got a lot of pieces this offseason, and to see what they might do at the trade deadline, the biggest test will be those games against the Cubs.
Jason Heyward leads things off against the new pitcher on the mound for the Cardinals as left-hander Tyler Lyons takes over. Heyward, Zobrist, and Happ. Jason Heyward has been one of the Cubs stars tonight. A pair of RBI singles. Another base hit for Jason Heyward.
I mean, the season, yes, that he is having, but Alex, you talked about this too. How about the difference in just how relaxed this swing is, how quick his hands are, just the body, everything about Jason Heyward this season is every reason why the Cubs signed him. And we've seen 3 different locations on the hits that he's gotten tonight. This one beautiful, it's up, elevated, but look at him being able to get to this pitch, have the power, but just him being that relaxed hitter, where before he'd tie himself out, he could not hit a fastball to save his life. And I feel like now, not only is he hammering fastballs better than anyone in baseball, but it doesn't even matter where they're located, Alex. He's hitting all of them.
It's rare to see a hitter in a span of 3 months or 6 months to look like he's a AAA player, and 6 months later looks like he's a Major League Baseball all-star. That's exactly what you're seeing with Jason Heyward.
Singles in each of his last 3 at-bats as he sets the table here to lead off the 7th for Ben Zobrist.
Chili Davis, the new hitting coach.
Chili, yeah.
And you got to give credit to him to be able to, and Hayward's tried so many different things, but clearly there's been some magic in what Chili's brought to him this year.
Running on the first pitch with no throw down. A huge jump on Tyler Lyons.
And where you'll see his first move gone bad and he still got away with it. He actually left way before he should have. And when it's going good, it's going good.
First bag of the year for Heyward. So a chance now for Zobrist to drive in a run.
You know, in baseball, it's just like any other sport, whether it's golf, football, or basketball. There's a swagger. There's a you just look at Jason Heyward. He looks comfortable. There's some swag there. He's making eye contact with you. His mojo's back, and that's exactly why Theo Epstein signed him. Now Theo hopes that Yu Darvish can do the same. I know it's been a short time. It's been a very tough start for Yu Darvish. He needs to get it going.
Yeah, you know, you wonder, the Cubs have said on a number of occasions, hey, what we have for the push is here in the clubhouse already. Whether Darvish is healthy or not, that's not going to change our shopping plans for the break. But now with Morrow on the DL, and of course everybody hopes that's just a temporary setback and Brandon's back in 10 days, good as new. But you wonder what that does to the shopping plans as we get into the deadline in less than 2 weeks.
And guys, what I'm hearing from general managers is they think as we get close to the trade deadline, there are going to be a ton of relievers out there and available for salary dumps.
Bounce back up the middle and through, a base hit for Zobrist. This will drive in Heyward, and the Cubs are back on top by 3.
Another mistake for the Cardinals defense. Shortstop, second base, confused, not knowing who would go for the ball. You'll see Wong's reaction here of disappointment. Do I go? Do I not? And again, for the Cubs offense, capitalizing on small ball. Base hit, stolen base.
DeYoung pulled up there at the end.
Correct.
Here's Ian Happ now. He has homered tonight.
And I don't care what anybody says. I mean, as far as launch balls and home runs and all of this, this is the brand of baseball that will get you back to winning a world championship, not the striking out 15, 20, 22 times a game. That's maybe what they want upstairs. This is the blend you're looking for right here.
Well, it's been fun to watch tonight. I mean, we saw hit and run executed perfectly. We've seen batters picking up RBI situations. Yeah, Happ has hit a home run tonight. Carpenter's homered on the other side, and so's Pham. But for the most part, the Cubs have played a nice station-to-station game. Rizzo with a pair of doubles. And now it looks like we've got another runner picked off. This one on the other side of the scorecard as Zobrist is caught.
And Ben Zobrist did exactly what Hayward did, except this time they threw over there. Both guys left too early. One is out, one is safe.
A strike to Happ to put him behind 0-2. That caught stealing goes 1 to 3 to 4. Carpenter to Wong covering to finish for the first out.
Buster, we talked about who's available and who's not. I think sometimes in today's game you have to be a contrarian and think differently. I think you have to look at every player in Major League Baseball is possibly out there that could be available, and you have to look for value where most people are not looking. And what I mean by being a contrarian is make the calls. Is Madison Bumgarner available? Is Gary Sanchez available? And you saw Cleveland go to New York and get Andrew Miller. Well, most conventional thinking would think, well, Andrew's not available. He has a couple of years left in his contract. Well, guess what? He was available, and it was a fantastic move for both teams.
Cleveland goes and makes a big deal today, getting Brad Hand from San Diego in exchange for one of their top prospects, a plus offensive side catcher. So with Hand crossed off that relievers list, it grows even shorter. And by the way, remember that the Mariners acted first on all this and got Jesus Colome from the Rays way before any official talks were underway in the media, that is. So maybe, Alex, to your point, you will have to uncover some rocks that no one had considered if you want to help your bullpen needs.
It's a different game, different executives. Players are being appraised differently. You have to go out and make the phone calls, look under every rock, make every phone call, and exhaust every opportunity you have to make your team better. And sometimes you don't know a player is available until you make that call. So due diligence is a big part of what should be going on as we speak right now.
And a full count to Kyle Schwarber now, 3-2.
And Buster, if you're the Mets and you're sitting there and Gary Sanchez is out and the Yankees are playing well, you may think, well, this could be the second coming of Mike Piazza. To be continued.
Swing and a miss by Schwarber finishes off the 7th. Another run for the Cubs, however, in a now 7-4 Chicago lead. Baseball on ESPN is presented by the LG G7 Thin Q. What's it gonna take? Great action tomorrow on ESPN Plus. White Sox and Mariners at 10:10 Eastern, 7:10 Pacific. Saturday, Giants and A's in the Bay Bridge battle at 9 Eastern. Astros and Angels at 4 Eastern on Sunday. Streaming live on the ESPN app, so start your free trial of ESPN Plus now. Steve Cishek back to work, and here in the top half of the 8th, he'll go to work on the bottom of the order for the Cardinals, trailing by 3. Fowler, Pham, and then the pitcher spot for St. Louis. A perfect night to kick off the second half of the schedule. And by the way, it's just a part of the nomenclature. When we say second half, everybody understands that most of the schedule has already been played. Just one of those things we say, second half of the schedule after the All-Star break. We know we're about 60% in. Quit nitpicking us on Twitter, would you?
Wait, you read Twitter?
No. I just listen to what you guys tell us.
Yeah, Matt was on my podcast today. I mentioned that to him, and I could just hear him just go, "Really, Buster? Really?"
It's just, we just refer to it as the second half, right? First half, second half. No one's drawing an absolute line after 81 games.
Well, this year it was more so, right? Because the week came later. It was a week later, the All-Star game, the break.
Right. Season started a week earlier.
Yeah. So normally it is more of like maybe 52, 48.
We're over halfway home.
And this is when it gets exciting too, because the trade deadline in 2 weeks, which we've talked at length about, but then you start to really get an idea of, all right, who are the playoff contending teams? By the time we get into August, and that's when even for us, we don't even know where we're going or where we're headed for Sunday Night Baseball, because it all depends on what teams, who's going to be, like, who are the ones that are battling right now, and it gets a lot more defined in the second half.
Swing and a miss by Fowler, and there's one gone for Cishek. Some of the storylines in the National League as we start the post All-Star portion of the schedule. The NL East is really up for grabs. How about the Brewers? Can they make a move to catch the Cubs, or is it going to slip away as it did last year? And the West is wide open with 4 of the 5 teams laying legitimate claim to a postseason opportunity this year. Did the Manny Machado deal make the Dodgers the team to beat in the West, or are you thinking that the Rockies, who've gotten hot, the Diamondbacks, the Giants with all that veteran experience, is that still a race in your mind?
It's still a race, but the Dodgers are definitely the team to beat. And I think it elevated them, to me, even above the Cubs as far as the team to beat in the National League. That's how much I believe that Manny Machado will help that team in the next 2 months. And the Dodgers, I felt like, obviously they got off to the slow start. They had injuries. People were like, they were not even going to make it to the postseason. And not only did they get healthy, but then they add him, and it'll depend on who else gets additions. But I feel like the Dodgers now, to me, they're the best team in the National League.
I think the Cubs and the Dodgers are pretty much even. I mean, here's the bottom line. Both teams need a Super 2 behind Kershaw and behind and Lester. And the bottom line is, regardless whether you pick the Dodgers or the Cubs, the varsity continues to be the American League. And they have 3 teams that are head and shoulders better than any National League team: the Astros, the Red Sox, and the Yankees.
Maybe those teams active to try to bolster their rosters with a role player DH type, or who couldn't use another hitter, a guy perhaps like the guy at the plate.
The reason why the Dodgers are so good in a long season, they have incredible depth. They're wide and shallow. In the postseason, what you need is narrow and deep.
Jose Martinez lays off a tough pitch. It misses inside.
Hey guys, Jose Martinez at the plate. Don't be surprised if he winds up getting moved before July 31st, as the Cardinals are going through this overall reassessment, the firing of Mike Matheny last weekend. They may make changes with the rosters. They have a lot of right-handed hitting outfielders. Jose Martinez, someone who isn't necessarily a great defender, could be a fit for an American League team, and the guy has proven he can flat out hit. He's got a .363 on base percentage. Maybe an American League team, who knows, maybe like the Orioles, doesn't have to necessarily be a contender because he doesn't have a lot of service time. He's going to continue to be cheap for the next couple of years, and he can rake.
Buster, he has to be in the American League. I mean, this is a guy, you just mentioned how he can hit.
As he does so
there.
Yeah, he can hit.
And he, I mean, it's not that he's a subpar defender. I mean, he's shown that he struggles defensively. I feel like he shouldn't be out there in the field, and that's why we haven't seen for a guy that's been hitting so hot. I don't know. I almost think it'd be ironic for him to talk about Moustakas. That'd be an interesting trade, I think, between, and this is just me from an outside observation, but Martinez going to the Royals, that American League team, Moustakas coming over to the Cardinals.
It's not so crazy. He's got controllable service years left on his deal. Continue that discussion after we take a break for what looks like a pitching change, as Joe Maddon has already made the move to the bullpen. Tying run coming to the plate for St. Louis in the 8th. A pitching change, and we'll be right back. Minneapolis with Linda Cohn and John Butchergross. They'll have highlights and reactions from Tigers' first round at the Open Championship, plus a conversation with Boogie Cousins and a look ahead to MLB's second half. It says right here on the card, second half. Not my words. Sports Center on ESPN and on the ESPN app tonight. Some changes with the new pitcher as Justin Wilson takes over on the mound. Faces the potential tying run in the form of Matt Carpenter, who has homered tonight. Here are the changes behind Wilson. Ben Zobrist moves from second to left. Javi Baez takes over at second. That's the realignment for the Cubs behind their new pitcher. Back-to-back one-out singles signaling the departure of Steve Cishek. And Wilson trying to keep things clean here in the 8th. 0-2 to Carpenter now. Wilson's been great this year at 2.77 ERA. His number's been called often. 42 appearances before the break.
And with Morrow down, expect the Cubs and Maddon to use Strop and C.J. Edwards mismatched to close the game.
Yeah, the latter of those two, Alex. Edwards is up as we speak. And that's Pedro Strop in repose, doing some kind of a bear move. Very comfortable in that recliner at this juncture.
He doesn't have shoes on, does he?
Getting the hammies ready. Getting the left hammy ready.
Wilson's 1-2 home. Yadi Molina waiting on deck, and as much as it's felt like the Cubs have been in control in this game ever since they took the lead with the 5-run fifth, they've got the tying run at the plate here with only one away, and a red hot hitter due up next. And Caratini takes a foul tip there. A ball and 2 strikes, the count to Matt Carpenter. Molina on deck next, has 4 hits tonight. 3 singles and a double. And the count will run full, 3 balls and 2 strikes.
This will probably be Wilson's last pitch with Edwards ready and the red hot Molina on deck already with 4 hits.
Pham and Martinez aboard with 1 gone, and Carpenter fouls it away. You know, I think the last thing, like the last, I wouldn't call it an obstacle or a goal even for Yadi Molina, but the guy's accomplished so much, and he's been a big part of our story tonight with the 4 hits. The Cardinals are going to be looking for a full-time manager. Whether they give Mike Shildt that opportunity or not remains to be seen. Everybody's already putting names out there. Joe Girardi's getting a lot of run. A local to a degree from nearby Peoria, Illinois. Continue this thought in a moment. Here's the next 3-2 to Carpenter. 1 hop to first. A tricky hop for Rizzo. Makes a great play. Throw to first goes bad. Wilson gets on it, and a run will score as Pham never stopped. It's the Cubs' turn for a defensive miscue.
And you'll see one of the best plays here on the front end and one of the weirdest on the back end. This is Keith Hernandez-like at first base. Beautifully fielded, very confident throwing arm, and a perfect throw, and I don't think Wilson expected it.
Yeah, Wilson just wasn't there in time to take that relay from Russell. As we get another look, and that leads to a run.
We'll get a look when we come back, but I actually think that ball hit the base runner. We'll take a look when we come back.
A pitching change in a now 2-run game.
throw to Russell here, and Russell comes out throwing, ready to throw a strike, and he goes, oh, and he actually stops himself because he says to himself, I should not make this throw, and he just throws it away.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. Russell realized right before he let go of the ball, Wilson wasn't going to be there in time, and ended up yanking it, and Pham never stopped, really. So that nets a run, and it once again brings the tying run to the plate after a change. Carl Edwards Jr. is the new pitcher against the red-hot Yadi Molina, who's in the midst of a 4-for-4 night. If you're wondering, Yadi has never had a 5-hit game. He's 0-for-4 against Edwards in his career, who makes his 30th appearance of the season here tonight. You've got to go back 40 years to find the date when a Cardinal catcher last enjoyed a 5-hit game. And that one skips. A free pass and a free 90 feet for Carpenter.
It's the breaking ball here, and an impossible play here. I mean, nothing you can do about it. Gets over there. The ball actually goes over his right shoulder. But with 4 hits here, you have to think Joe Maddon. No, you pitch to him. 2-run lead. 1-run lead.
Go ahead, run in the on deck circle in the form of Paul DeJong, who is without a hit tonight. Dave Rader was the last Cardinal catcher with a 5-hit game in May of '77. Scott Rowland had one most recently among any position Cardinals back in 2007. That came against the Cubs. Last Cardinal with a 5-hit game against Chicago specifically. Three balls and a strike. I was getting ready to talk about this earlier, the fact that the last thing for Yadi Molina in the Cardinals search for a full-time manager, if Mike Schilt doesn't get the gig at the end of his audition. How about player manager?
I was right there with you.
Love to see a player manager. Anybody.
Doesn't he already kind of do that?
According to a lot of people, yeah.
I mean, he definitely manages the pitching staff, and he's respected in the clubhouse.
We haven't seen one in a while. I think Pete Rose was the last. Full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes to Yadi Molina. Highest leverage moment of the game so far for the Cubs bullpen.
Carl Edwards Jr. just such a good job with that 4-seam fastball that he will elevate. One of the best spin rates in the game, and because of that, it's just going to ride and stay high. That's why you saw Molina go to a knee on that second strike.
Yadi is on everything tonight.
And this part of the game is about managing the last 4 outs of the game. Your #1 goal, if you're Edwards, is you need to keep Molina in the ballpark. You can live with a hit, not with a home run.
The payoff pitch home. Molina sends a flare to second for Baez to end the threat. They bent, but they didn't break. To the bottom of the 8th, Cubs still lead by a pair. Chicago Cubs picking up right where they left off, getting into the All-Star break, and trailing as we hit the bottom of the 8th are the St. Louis Cardinals. A 7-5 Cubs lead. Addison Russell leads off the home 8th with an extra base hit into the right center field gap. Jumped on the new reliever Matt Bowman, and the Cubs have a runner in scoring position to start the 8th. Well, your game summary, and the Cubs broke open a 5-run 5th to grab their first lead of the game. They haven't given it back. Ian Happ hit a 2-run home run to cap off the 5-run rally. Jason Hayward's been terrific. A pair of RBI singles and a 3-hit night for him. The Cardinals have enjoyed a 4-hit performance from Yadi Molina in a trailing effort so far. So now Victor Caratini. He too bounces the first pitch back up the middle. Knocked down by Wong. Never stopping as Russell. He'll score. Caratini to second. That one's overthrown. Two pitches, 2 hits, and a run against Matt Bowman here in the bottom of the 8th.
And a lot going on here on this play. First job is nice job here by getting the guy over to third base, and great job by Butterfield, never hesitating, thinking home all the way. This third run, and Molina throws one. No harm, no foul there. Third one very, very important, especially with Brandon Morrow down, and the short bullpen for Madden. Every run counts.
Albert Almora now. A double and a single on the 2 pitches. Rather, Javi Baez batting here with a runner aboard. He too gets the first ball in the air, or on a line at least, and it's gobbled up by Jerko. Man alive, 3 pitches and 3 swings by the Cubs.
And they'll probably put Rizzo on.
They do indeed. Rizzo's walked intentionally. This is the 5th batter that Matt Bowman has faced. We haven't even had a chance to put his line on the board yet. 21st appearance of the year. And he has been received rather aggressively by the Cubs batters so far here in the 8th. So now Bryant, who has a single tonight. And a bell ringer for Molina. Actually, that caught the home plate umpire. Oh my goodness, that got Kerwin Danley square. Oh.
Look at Yadi behind the plate immediately react too. I mean, that was his first move, is to put his arm around him.
Kerwin Danley, one of the real good guys in the game in his 21st year.
Well, there is something about the foul tips off the bat of Chris Bryant when the Cubs play the Cardinals. That cost Yadi Molina a month when he caught a foul tip in the groin earlier this year. Maybe that's what Yadi's telling Kerwin now. Hey, I got a foul tip off this guy and I had to have surgery.
Talked to Kerwin before the game and asked him what he did over the break, and he talked about being in San Diego and how wonderful it was to sit on the beach, and he gets the call to do the first game of the second half of the season and gets his bell rung. I'm sure he'd probably rather be on the beach at the moment.
We're quite sure of that. So Bowman back to work on Bryant. 0-1. You know, if you're going to put the Cubs and the Cardinals next to each other and talk about relative strength and weakness, in the battle of the bullpens, it's pretty lopsided.
Yeah.
Cubs have a big advantage.
Well, I mean, even with Brandon Morrow going on the DL, and obviously he's been ridiculous at closer and what he's been able to bring, but the fact that you have Justin Wilson, Carl Edwards Jr., so many, Pedro Strop, so many of these guys that are back-end guys that can slide into that 9th inning. And doing it in a shut-down way. Not many teams, first of all, have closers the way that the Cubs do, but then can lose their best relief pitcher and have guys to be able to fill in.
It's where the Cubs have been able to survive shorter starts, like the one tonight, let's face it, by Kyle Hendricks, who was only able to go 4 2/3. Chicago has won 24 of their last 35, where neither starter was the pitcher of record.
Wow.
A ball and 2 strikes, the count to Bryant. Oh, he is looking to serve right field here and fades that one foul as well.
You know, the other side of the coin, when you think about the second wild card and why it's so great for baseball, as poorly as the Cardinals have played in the first half of the season, with all the errors, the injuries, the underperformance. We talked about Dexter Fowler, Osuna getting his feet wet. There's still 4 games out of the wild card, which gives you plenty of time and hope for the Cardinals to make a run.
Well, and a new manager, Mike Schilt. I mean, talk about an opportunity. And Buster talked about his story and just a unique path. But this clubhouse, it's a different feel in there already. And it's only been 5 days. And I think about them playing the Cubs the next 8 of 11. And the fact that they need to prove themselves right off the bat.
Alex, you talked about your first impression of Mike Schilt being he's someone you want to root for, and that's what I've heard from Cubs people, that he's someone who players naturally respond to. He told us the story about after his first win the other day, Adam Wainwright gave him the finger whack, come follow me, and they put him in the laundry basket in the shower, and just dumped a whole bunch of cold water on him. He was dripping wet after his first win in the big leagues.
He showed a tremendous amount of humility.
It's a base hit for Bryant. Caratini comes around to score. And the Cubs are just pouring it on now. 9-5 Chicago.
And just a sign of a great hitter after a handful of sinkers in. Here comes a slider. Out over the plate. Maybe even a borderline ball. But just tremendous reach from the right-hander. Dale Murphy-like. And you see that, just a chip shot. I just love the chip shots.
Well, and that's where 6'5", the levers, to be able to utilize the body that he has to reach a pitch that a lot of batters don't have any business even reaching, let alone getting a hit on.
We're not so concerned on the exit velocity there, are we?
Maybe as a low.
Mercifully. Here's Jason Hayward now, who has enjoyed a great night. 3 for 4, 2 runs scored, a couple of RBIs, and a stolen base, his first of the year for good measure.
I mean, exit velocity, Matt, I think is a very contemporary term. I mean, Gary Sheffield just hit the ball hard. There were some guys, Dave Winfield. For me, I wanted RBIs and runs scored. You can keep all the exit velocity stuff, because those are the 2 numbers that help you win games.
Yeah. Oh, and 2 is the count to Jason Hayward. Our director of editorial content, Moses Messina, is keeping an unofficial.
This is a good one.
It's a bingo card on 80s players that you have mentioned tonight. Jody Davis, Tommy Herr, Ozzie Smith, Dale Murphy, and Dave Winfield.
When you have a law degree from Seton Hall, you can do things like that, you know?
Doing official stats and running an A-Rod 80s players bingo card. Keith Hernandez. We forgot Keith Hernandez.
Oh yeah, we got to put.
That's every week, but I'm constantly reminding Jessica on how old I am. 80s baseball was pretty.
I'm with you.
Infield fly.
Pop for DeYoung, and you could hear the third base umpire there, Will Little, make the signal for the infield fly rule being in effect.
You know, Matt, I got home 2 weeks ago, and it was Monday, and I'm talking to my older daughter, Natasha. And she goes, Natasha, she goes, Dad, you always mention all these old guys. I've never heard of any of them. Can you just mention some younger guys, like guys that I know?
Okay, that's on you though, man. Pull up Google.
That's right.
Get some Wikipedia going and just like start. I mean, my dad always talked about Mickey Mantle, Satchel Paige. I mean, he was throwing out all kinds of old dudes when I was young. But
I'm not going 40s. I'm going 80s.
I know. Might as well be 40s.
You're right.
A young girl right now.
We have all kind of become our fathers and uncles in that regard, because I do the same thing in the discussion of launch angle and the 3 true outcomes and xWOBA and xFIP and exit velocity, which kind of makes me gnash my teeth occasionally. I always talk about how Rod Carew and Tony Gwynn didn't care about that stuff. They just got mad hits every night. Hits. That's what it was. So we talk about those guys the way our uncles and fathers used to talk about DiMaggio and Williams, and we used to roll our eyes at them when we were kids and say, oh, come on, Dad, talk about Reggie Jackson more. It's a generational thing. That's why our game's great.
About 6 weeks ago, I asked the player, I said, how you doing? How you seeing the ball? And I knew he was struggling a little bit. He goes, well, I'm 1 for 26, but my average velo is 102. I go, 1 for 26?
Was he serious?
He was that serious.
I had two tell me that tonight.
serious.
I had 2 players tell me that tonight. Say, I might be struggling, but if you look at my exit velocity, I'm hitting the ball hard. So I'm good.
Zober sends a fly ball the other way for Ozuna to retire the side. Chicago's able to add on. Last chance for St. Louis tonight, trailing by 4. Away from X Games Minneapolis right after the Cubs and Cardinals tonight on ESPN. A reminder, Sunday, Mets and Yankees, the finale of the Subway Series. Masahiro Tanaka and Jacob deGrom. It'll be a good one Sunday night. And here we are in the top of the 9th inning with Carl Edwards Jr. being given the opportunity to finish it out. He'll get DeYoung, Ozuna, and Jerko for St. Louis. Cardinals were the first to score tonight. They enjoyed leads of 2-0 and 3-1. The tide turned with a 5-run fifth by the Cubs as DeYoung sends a ball out to left. It skips in front of Zobrist rather and bounces all the way to the garage door. And DeYoung is into second on his first hit of the night.
And this is an in-between hop that Zobrist gets out in left field, and this is one you got to commit either early or late to be able to stay on your feet and let it bounce off your body, because I've never been a fan of the slide, and that's why right there, because anytime that you go down and the ball bounces up, you don't have the rest of your body to get behind it. And when you're a corner outfielder, it's such a hard play to do because it gets by you and not a lot near you to back you up.
So now Marcell Ozuna with the leadoff hitter aboard at second.
And with that slide of Zobrist, it should get Pedro Strop up, and there he is. He's now ready to go, Matt.
He's off the recliner.
Shoes are on.
Pitchers.
Has he thrown yet? We're told he has been warming up. A ball and a strike to count to Ozuna. Boy, a lot of things going right for the Chicago Cubs tonight. Able to survive the short start by Hendricks, just 4 2/3. Hopped into foul territory and no play for Rizzo or Caratini.
Matt, I'm going to make my first call of the year, Jess. Here we go. I felt really, really good after meeting Mike Shildt. There was good energy. I wish we had another extra 30 minutes with him, to be honest with you. But I expect a big second half from Ozuna. Carpenter. I think Dexter Fowler is going to get it going with kind of the new face. And I expect the Cardinals to make a run and sneak into the postseason.
Okay.
That's my call.
Get it on record. Check back in September.
Buster, it's on the record.
I picked the Cardinals to make the playoff before the year starts, so I'm with you. Need a boost.
Jess, you want to make a prediction? Did you notice my lengthy layout there waiting for your prediction before I came in?
Red Sox make the postseason.
Red Sox make the postseason.
No, we got to go
come
back.
on, Jess.
Yeah, Jess, who was your American League Central pick?
Oh, come on. No, we're not going there.
Yeah, we are.
Okay. I know. I'm telling you, the Indians have that, like, I feel like it's already done, said. I had the Twins in the Central. That's how excited I was in the preseason.
All right. Not so crazy. They made some moves in the offseason. Sharply hit the shortstop for Russell. And one away here in the ninth.
There's always next year, Jess.
And I'm feeling good about my pick for the Indians to win the World Series after that trade today, because nobody is going to be better positioned for August and September while the Red Sox, Yankees, Astros, Mariners beat each other up. The Indians will be getting their rotation in order. They'll be first in the waiver claim. They'll upgrade their bullpen. I'm feeling good about it.
All right. You were on record with the Indians on opening day, Buster?
I was. I am. And I stand by it.
Any leveraging of the family farm up in Vermont?
I'm not ready to bet the family farm on it. Okay. Those other American League teams are pretty good.
Got it.
But in a short series, pretty dangerous.
Jed Jerko now with the runner aboard and one gone. I think there's a terrific race happening in the AL West.
Yes.
Where the plucky little Oakland A's, don't sleep on the swinging A's. They've got 10 left with Seattle, 7 of those at home from here on out. Very much in the race in the wild card picture in the AL. Jerko fades a fly ball that's going to stay playable for Hayward. And the Cubs are an out away from sealing up a victory tonight.
Billy Beane, who's still there, GM president, who started the sabermetrics movement a couple of decades ago. He was 1 of 30. Now he's 30 of 30.
Boy, they've been a great story this year.
Jed Lowry, all-star this year, one of the better hitters in the American League. Stanford grad.
Jed Lowry, Chris Davis, Matt Olson, Matt Chapman, they've been great.
A terrific baseball town, Oakland.
Colton Wong represents the last chance for St. Louis tonight. We went on the air a few hours ago talking about the trends that each of these two teams had gotten into the break in the midst of. For the Cardinals, it was losing 10 of 16. For the Cubs, it was taking over the division and enjoying their biggest division lead of the season. Those two trends will continue tonight. Chicago went out away from a season best 3-game lead over Milwaukee atop the NL Central. Wong into right field. And Colton Wong doing his part to keep the night alive.
And this should get Pedro Strop in the game now that is a closing situation.
An RBI single for Colton Wong. That's his second RBI single of the game. And here comes Joe Maddon. And you are on it, Alex. There will be a pitching change now that it's turned into a save situation. Pedro Strop will be summoned for the final out of the night. A pitching change, and we'll be right back. Out in the top of the 9th inning, and Pedro Strop, who has pitched scoreless ball in 35 of his 40 outings this year, is tasked with recording 1 out to earn a victory for Chicago tonight.
Joe Maddon talks about how underrated Pedro Strop has been because, as we talked about, so many good arms in this bullpen, but he's been one of those unsung heroes as far as when you look at the numbers of this bullpen, and I think now we'll get a chance to shine. Morrow on the DL, he will get a lot more opportunities to close.
Wong runs with no throw down, no stolen base will be credited there. A ball and no strikes, the count to Dexter Fowler. On the ground to second for Baez to wrap it up tonight. The Chicago Cubs with an impressive come from behind victory in their first out of the break. It's the Cubs defeating the Cardinals by a final tonight of 9-6. For Alex Rodriguez, Jessica Mendoza, and Buster Olney, Matt Vasgersian saying so long from Wrigley Field. We'll see you from the Bronx on Sunday. The X Games starts now.